Bueno, la verdad es que soy Enrique García, soy el decano de esta Facultad de Educación, que habéis tenido la amabilidad de escogerla para hacer esta quinta sesión, y además creo que es la última, ¿verdad? Es la sesión final de este proyecto que está interesante. En primer lugar, quiero dar la bienvenida y pido perdón por mi pronunciación, pero intentaré, diríamos, hacerlo en cada una de las lenguas de los países socios que estén aquí. Pues, benvindo a Portugal, benvenuti per l'Italia, caro solicís per la Grecia, Vitaisha, hola, Bunvenit, per Rumanía, welcome, y bienvenidos por España. Ya digo que esta es un poco la presentación. Y la verdad es que, con el permiso de los socios, me permito también el de hacer un poco una presentación más cercana a mí, porque es un tema que desde el primer momento me resultó interesante. Y además estoy feliz de que, digamos, este interés también se haya, digamos, transmitido a profesores y estudiantes de esta facultad. Cuando leo qué es el storytelling, dice: storytelling es el acto de transmitir relatos valiéndose del uso de palabras y de imágenes, normalmente utilizando la improvisación y distintos adornos estilísticos. Por eso me sentí yo atraído por estas jornadas, ¿no? Como se sienten atraídos los niños cuando el abuelo les cuenta sus batallitas, cuando cuenta, y estos niños se sientan y les dicen: por favor, otra vez, por favor, otra vez. Tell me again, tell me again, tell me again, tell me more, tell me again y tell me more. Ciertamente, eso es lo que dicen los niños. Curiosamente, ese proceso sigue existiendo a lo largo de toda la vida, aunque a veces, digamos, los adultos casi lo olvidamos y nos vamos hacia los discursos. También se dice que las historias o narraciones están compartidas por todas las culturas, ¿no? Como medio para entretener, para educar, para mantener la cultura y inculcar además un sistema de valores. Pues bien, en educación lo que estamos haciendo a veces, y recojo palabras de Joan Ferrer, que dice que en educación predominan los discursos, los argumentos, lo racional, las palabras, frente a los relatos, frente a la seducción, frente a lo emotivo y frente a las imágenes. Porque ciertamente esa es un poco la comparación que él hacía entre la televisión de los años 90 del siglo pasado y la escuela. Enfrentaba televisión y escuela. En la escuela hacemos muchos discursos y en cambio, diríamos, contamos pocos relatos. Entonces, por eso esta jornada yo creo que es fundamental para, diríamos, esa especie de inyección a la escuela para realmente convertirla, digamos, en eso que se hace en todas las culturas, y a través del relato se enseña, se inculcan valores y diríamos, se mantiene la cultura. De todas maneras, no debemos quedarnos solamente en la seducción, lógicamente el relato, cuando estamos todo esto, sino que tenemos que también llegar a la argumentación. Tampoco, diríamos, deberíamos quedarnos únicamente en el relato exclusivamente. Luego, otra de las cosas que dice que debe tener cualquier relato es argumento, personajes y punto de vista narrativo. Pues bien, por eso para esta presentación yo he elegido dos historias de mi experiencia, dos historias personales, lo que facilitará mi capacidad de relatarlo, porque no relato de otro, sino de lo mío. Y en la primera, pues pido perdón por los problemas técnicos que seguramente habrá, porque data de 1984, 13 years ago, y veamos, y que además estaba grabado en VHS. De VHS, no cinta máster, se pasó a digital, que es lo que tenemos aquí. Digamos, esa es una primera historia. Y una en la cual lo que hicimos, nos faltaba un poco de argumentos, pero en ese momento pensamos que necesitábamos unos personajes para narrar un concepto súper aburrido. Los estudiantes sabrán que cuando los profesores dicen que van a hablar de organización escolar, diríamos, vamos, decide otra cosa que él está atento. Bueno, pues nosotros tratábamos en ese año, y digo tratábamos porque principalmente fueron los estudiantes lo que hicieron, El proyecto se llamaba Aprender a enseñar comunicando y comunicar enseñando a aprender. Pues, digamos, esa es la primera historia que os presentaré. La segunda, casi voy a intentar ponerla y luego os cuento la segunda. Sí, tenemos un problema con el sonido, esperemos que nadie se quede sin aceptar. Vale. Como veis, el título es La escuela pública, porque trataba de explicar cómo era la escuela pública. Además,
Estamos en el mercado central. Señoras, ¿alguna de ustedes tiene hijos en la escuela? ¿Sí? ¿Cuántos tienen?
ella es una estudiante que está haciendo una entrevista, digamos, al natural.
¿Estás satisfecha del colegio? ¿Tiene usted hijos en la escuela? Sí. ¿Cuántos tiene? Pues no la había terminado. ¿A qué colegio los ha llevado? ¿Y se encuentra satisfecha con...? Vale, muchas gracias. ¿Usted también tiene hijos? ¿Cuántos? Tengo dos.
Sí, interview aquí.
¿Y a qué colegio los lleva? Pues
esta es la otra estudiante que ejerce papel de madre, ¿no? A la cual se le pregunta, ella está preguntando. Como veis, está, digamos, interactuando, diríamos, los dos personajes intentando, digamos, enlazar unos conceptos que en principio eran siguen siendo, digamos, muy aburridos y demás, y tratando de ponerles un poco en imágenes también. Bueno, creo que dado el... No quiero, digamos, personas. Sigue así. Digamos, la duración en ese momento era de unos 14 minutos, ya de alguna forma ajustábamos los tiempos, pero sí que ahí, digamos, mi experiencia cuando trataba de pensar en qué es lo que habíamos hecho, perdón, que me iba del lado del streaming. Cuando hacíamos este planteamiento de tratar de poner en imágenes esos contenidos de esa asignatura, pensábamos que ciertamente teníamos que utilizar al menos unos personajes y algún tipo de argumentos. Bueno, para la otra cuestión que quiero presentaros, que lo que trata de decir es que cómo la metodología didáctica se expresa mejor a veces y se explica a través de historias, me he permitido tomar un texto y, digamos, de Joaquín Verges, que es un novelista zaragozano, que tuvo la amabilidad de asistir a algunas clases de formación de profesorado conmigo, y que ciertamente en su libro Vive como puedas encontré un relato que yo lo presenté a los estudiantes como algo que era una cuestión importante didácticamente. Y entonces ellos incluso casi lo bautizaron, diríamos, o bautizaron aquella metodología.
Y Luis se están disfrazando respectivamente de Melchor y Gaspar sentados en un banco público.
Bueno, digamos, entonces, el tema del atrezo tampoco lo hemos concreto, pero bueno, sí. Después de lo ocurrido, no tienes que considerarlo una obligación. No hay ningún compromiso. Puedes dejarlo si quieres.
Prefiero continuar.
En ese caso, es esencial que sepas unas cuantas cosas.
Tú dirás.
Tumbo mira hacia un lado y otro como quien necesita un grado supremo de intimidad para seguir hablando. Da la impresión de que va a revelarle el lugar exacto donde se encuentra el Santo Grial.
Las calles estarán abarrotadas en ambas aceras. La cabalgata circulará por el medio de la calzada. Así que es fundamental que mires y saludes a ambos lados. ¿Comprendes?
Luis apoyó la cabeza en su mano izquierda, lo que provoca que se le caiga la corona al suelo.
Oye, estoy destrozado anímicamente, pero no soy idiota.
No, insisto, Luis. Debo hacerlo. Un fallo podría ser fatal. Si un solo niño se queda sin tu saludo, habremos fracasado por completo.
Luis arruga el entrecejo.
No exageres. Desde donde los niños miran apenas se nos verá.
Te equivocas. Se ve perfectamente. Los niños se fijan en todos tus gestos. La cabalgata avanza despacio y eso facilita la observación. Es primordial que dividas la calle en pequeños tramos y vayas girándote a derecha e izquierda continuamente, barriendo las aceras con tu mirada, sin dejarte un centímetro. ¿Está claro?
Luis se pone de pie y abre los brazos.
Está clarísimo, pero no comprendo por qué te preocupas tanto.
Luis, ¿tú ibas a la cabalgata cuando eras pequeño?
Yo vivía en un pueblo y allí no había cabalgatas.
Melchor asiente con la cabeza, como quien encaja la última pieza de un puzzle.
Yo iba siempre, hasta que un año ninguno de los 3 Reyes Magos me devolvió el saludo. Grité y agité los brazos como un loco tratando de llamar su atención, pero ninguno me miró, nunca más volví.
Gaspar se levanta y posa su mano derecha en el hombro izquierdo de su amigo.
Entonces, mi primera mirada será para ti.
Gracias. Bueno, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a la colaboración. Y gracias también por los aplausos, porque como dice uno de los asistentes por aquí, eso, diríamos, le llena un poco de energía por las mañanas. Y bueno, esto, diríamos, finalmente, yo cuando puse en un examen la pregunta aquella de qué es importante la interacción entre profesores y alumnos, más de un estudiante de repente puso aquello de, pues lo que utilizaría sería la metodología del Rey Mago. Entonces, lógicamente, diríamos, quedó bautizada como esa metodología en la cual explicar, diríamos, claramente algo que tú tienes que decir con un relato que a veces no viene desde la novela. Y, lógicamente, creo que a los socios y que tendrán muchísimos ejemplos muchísimo mejores. Y yo creo que no os va a pasar nada más. No sé si he llegado a los 20 minutos porque no lo tenía muy medido, pero desde luego, muchísimas gracias. Bienvenidos nuevamente, welcome, y al menos por hoy esta es vuestra casa y desde luego siempre es vuestra casa la Facultad de Educación. Muchísimas gracias. María, vuelta.
Sí, brevemente, rápidamente también decir un poco quiénes somos del lado de los españoles, puesto que los socios de otros países que tan amablemente nos han visitado nos lo explicarán. Sabed que nosotros somos una entidad de aquí de Zaragoza y que hace ya más de 20 años que venimos actuando en proyectos innovadores. Este es el resultado de uno de ellos. Habréis oído hablar de los proyectos de Leonardo, Grundig y Minerva, ahora todos bajo un mismo paraguas que se llama Erasmus+. Les quiero mandaros en primer lugar un mensaje motivante. Son fondos de la Comisión Europea que cofinancian, siempre cofinancian, iniciativas innovadoras como estas. Entonces, esta reunión viene provocada porque estamos desarrollando un proyecto transnacional en el que varios socios de varios países creemos que tenemos una serie de necesidades comunes e intentamos encontrarles una respuesta común. Este es el resultado, por ejemplo, de este proyecto, pero nosotros, como os decía, nuestro centro de formación se llama FASE, hace ya 20 años que lo constituimos, y una entidad sin ánimo de lucro que se llama Indico, y que es una plataforma de promoción de este tipo de proyectos innovadores. Alguien tiene que tirar del carro. En este caso, nos apoyamos además en esta Facultad de Educación, pero para que tengáis una idea, hemos desarrollado ya más de 65 proyectos transnacionales de este tipo, algunos con un éxito, pues, vamos a decir, destacado. Permitidme vender nuestro trabajo, porque la semana pasada tuvimos ocasión de presentar en Graz, en Austria, el resultado de un proyecto que ha sido desarrollar un juego didáctico serio, basado en simulaciones, sobre todo para adolescentes, para que puedan descubrir la empresa de una manera motivadora y al mismo tiempo puedan descubrir sus competencias y habilidades personales para ser emprendedores en el futuro. es un ejemplo de estos. Puede simplemente decir, tenemos una fuerte actividad en este tipo de proyectos y que abrimos la puerta a cualquiera de los presentes, a cualquiera de los que nos estén siguiendo por streaming, a proponer y colaborar con nosotros en estos proyectos. Son innovadores, son motivantes, dan mucha guerra, dan mucho trabajo, eso no lo olvidemos, pero también dan muchas satisfacciones. Entonces, simplemente decir que somos los causantes, los provocadores de que esta reunión se haya realizado aquí, somos Fase y Indigo. Simplemente era esta presentación por ubicar. Y a continuación pasamos la palabra a la promotora de estos proyectos. Hay un socio principal que es quien dirige en colaboración con los demás socios y es el socio que normalmente pues, se enfada con los demás socios porque no les hacen las cosas a tiempo y porque a veces la calidad no es la esperada, pero que también al final del proyecto, cuando las cosas salen bien, es quien más satisfecha está del trabajo bien realizado. Le paso la palabra.
So, now that they've set up the expectations very, very high, I'm feeling much more lower than I already am, but I'll try to keep up with the dynamics of the presentations. My name is Ana Barroca. My company is Advances from Portugal, and I'm representing the T-Story project. I'm the coordinator of the project. We have an entity that is responsible for the project, our contractor, that is Institute from Italy. You will have Paola talking about some of the activities of the project later on. I'm the one who does all the coordination of the partners and the coordination of the activities. For those who already know me, you know that for the past 2 years, the life cycle of the project was 2 years. And for those that accompany our work, you will know that my life changed a lot in 2 years. I got pregnant, I had my daughter, and she is now shopping with her grandmother in the streets of Zaragoza. So it was a life-change event, and it accompanied my activity in the T-Story project. And you will see that it's something that marked my story, because it marked also my presentation. Things have to start somewhere, and storytelling, despite the character of innovation that we will be presenting here, storytelling is not new. Storytelling started long time ago. One of the first things you will ever hear about is storytelling, and stories are across the story of all countries and all civilizations. So we are talking about something that is very innovative, but still has a long tradition. And how were we born? This story was born upon the curiosity of all the partners. We are 7 partners from 7 different countries, and we joined because we had a common purpose. We want to, as Jose was saying, we want to work to improve the education and to improve the professional training in innovative ways. We want to do something different in education and training. And these are the partners that we have in this story. We have Advances, as I've told you. We are from Portugal. We have our contractor, that is Institute, a business school in Italy. We have HAZET, that is hosting our session today. We have also in Dialogue, a private company in the Netherlands. AGE, a faculty in Poland, in Łódź. We have IREA, the Institute of Adult Education in Romania. And we have also the University of Western Macedonia in Greece. So we joined to try to do something very innovative to education and training using storytelling with the support of the Lifelong Learning Program. So we applied to the European Agency and they supported our project under the key activities for ICT in education and training. And we have been doing this for the past 2 years, and what we bring to you today are the final products of our common project. This was what guides us, the main purpose of our projects and the things that are valued inside the European Agency. What we tried to do was look at the generation that we have today, look at the schools that we have today, look at the media that we have today, and try to use the best of all of these elements to produce new and innovative ways to teach, new and innovative ways to learn, and new and innovative ways to share the knowledge. Because at the end, it's a question of sharing the knowledge that we all have. This was our main purpose, and we set up a high-level purpose. And through the project, we understood that our target was very, very, very demanding, and it was a very, very, very demanding task, as you will see later on. So our main goal was to prepare a course, a digital course, about storytelling, about digital storytelling, using storytelling. So we will try to inspire others to use storytelling by teaching you using the storytelling methodology. These are the key topics of the 2 years of project that we had. We had first a transnational research in the 7 countries of the partnership, trying to understand exactly what the needs of our target groups were, what were their expectations, what they needed to improve. Then we move forward to developing the digital course and alongside the learning handbook that supports the learnings in the digital course. And we tested with real users our contents. We made pilot testings in every country, trying to understand if what we developed was of high quality and was delivering what we intended to. And you will have some information later today about the pilots, how did they go, and how was the satisfaction and the feedback of the trainings. So now our course is ready, and we are presenting it to the general public, and we have it in the 7 languages of the partnership. So you can access the digital course through the website of the T-Story project, and you have the option to select at least 7 languages, and also the English version. The same thing for our learning handbook. It's also available in 7 languages and in English. So you can also access it through the website of the T-Story project. It's an interactive handbook, as Katarina will have the opportunity to show you later. And these 2 years were also an opportunity to share with the world what we were doing and what other partners in other countries and around the world were doing within storytelling and within new ICT applied to education and training. So we cannot avoid this question. ICT is inside education, and we need to be able to deal with that without losing the sharing, the knowledge sharing that we all want to promote. And as I've told you, this is the end, or at least the official end of our project. We will end in the 30th of October. But is it the end for the activities that we run? Is it the end for the dream that we had in the beginning? Maybe not. We do intend to do other things, and when we were developing this dream, other dreams came to our minds, and we are already thinking on new ideas, on new ways to apply storytelling to new contexts, also to organizations, to health sector, as you will be able to see with our colleagues, some different applications that you can use to storytelling. You can access all the contents of storytelling of our project in our website. Also on the social networks, we have a promotional video in YouTube. You can get some additional information in Facebook, Twitter, and also in LinkedIn. These are the faces, some of the faces of the people involved in this project. Some of us are here, others are attending by streaming. And this is the invitation we have for you. Please do become a storyteller with us, and please share the experiences that you have and the experiences that you will have for sure in the future after attending our digital course. Please do share them with us in the Facebook, in the T-Story website, so that we can understand how our project also helped you in your educational and professional life. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Tinha. I work for the Romanian Institute for Adult Education. And after the very nice presentation that Anna gave you, the overview of our project, I need to go into more technical details and start talking to you about the first activity of our project, which was the needs analysis that IREA, my organization, coordinated. Just a summary of what we intended to do with this activity. The purpose of the activity was to conduct an analysis of the educators and teachers and trainers' needs regarding the development of their storytelling and digital storytelling skills. And of course, that this activity was very important to run because it meant the basis for the development of the future main products of this project, which were the learning handbook and the digital course, which you will be later on introduced to. The results of this research and this analysis were very valuable to us because we were able to find a lot about the knowledge of the participants, the knowledge of the teachers about storytelling and digital storytelling, and it gave us a lot of answers concerning to what we should do and how we should work on the development of this product. Well, one of the main components of digital storytelling, of course, that was the ICT part. So this was very important for us to assess the level of skills and competencies that teachers generally have when it comes to ICT. So we got very useful information about that. And nevertheless, what was very important for us was to find out that the teachers they are really interested in improving their skills. So they are very motivated and they are interested to improve their digital and creative skills and to use more innovative ICT methodologies. Just a few words about the methodology, because whenever we do a needs analysis or we run a research, this is very important for the people we are talking to know what we did and how we did it. So the participation countries in this needs analysis were all the project partners. You have them listed there. It was ran last year in 2013 from March till April. We had 381 respondents, and the instrument that we used was a questionnaire that was both provided online and in printed version in order to ensure that as much trainers will get the opportunity to fill in this questionnaire. It's very important to tell you a couple of words about the structure of the questionnaire, which was meant to make a full diagnosis of the whole process in terms of the knowledge about storytelling, ICT, and digital storytelling that teachers had, and it was very useful for us to develop the other main product. The questionnaire was structured in 6 sections. It had 52 questions, and the first one was, of course, about the demographics and the professional profile of the participants in this research. Section B was intended to capture the existing knowledge and attitudes towards storytelling and the use of storytelling in educational context. Section C was meant to record and to assess the ICT skills of teachers and the digital tools that they are using in or not in their educational practices. Section D was meant to find more about the knowledge and the attitudes towards digital storytelling. Section E was meant to record the training needs and expectations that the educators would have from such a training program. And Section F was a section with open questions that would allow the participants to give more details or whatever kind of information they wanted to provide. The target group of this needs analysis were educators, teachers from all educational levels. So we targeted participants starting from kindergarten teachers to university professors and adult education professionals. It was quite challenging to get to the target group and to involve them in the needs analysis. So the project partners have used different strategies to reach this target group, and you can see that we use a lot our social and professional networks. We use teachers groups or associations and personal or institutional contacts to get to the target group. In the following slides, I will give you just some highlights of the main parts of the needs analysis. And this is just to encourage you to go on our website and download the needs analysis report, which is a 130 pages report. So you can go there and you can read it all and find a lot more information. It's very little that we can present here. So in terms of the participants' profile and the distribution from by countries, here you have the numbers. We aimed in the application of the projects to have around 50 participants per country, and we reached those numbers. In terms of the distribution by age, most of the respondents have between 26 and 35 years old and 36 and 45 years old. As expected, there weren't so many respondents that had above 55, but what was at least curious in our case to see that, at least for Romania, that very few participants, the young teachers, they were not so willing to take part in the needs analysis. In terms of the qualifications of the teachers and the educators that responded to the questionnaire, most of them have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, which is quite expected for teachers nowadays to have quite a high level of formal qualification. In terms of the educational role of the participants in this needs analysis, more than 60% of them were teachers, school teachers, and not so many representatives from the other educational levels and sectors. In terms of the teaching or the training subject, and here it can lead us more to the idea of where storytelling and digital storytelling it's mostly used compared to the teaching and training subjects of our respondents. We can see that most of them are teaching humanities, and then we have among the respondents we have a lot of primary education teachers. In terms of the knowledge and attitudes about storytelling, we could see that more than 60% they knew what storytelling was. They had like a general idea about storytelling. They have heard before about the term of storytelling. Okay, I need to speed up a little bit. Maria, the timekeeper, is telling me that I need to speed up. So in terms of the familiarity with the storytelling in educational context, again, 50% of the respondents, they said that they are indeed familiar with storytelling in educational context. This is a very interesting result to show. It's a correlation between the familiarity with storytelling in general and the use of storytelling in classroom. And here you can see the green ones are the no answers to, so they were not familiar, but besides Greece and Portugal, in other countries, there were participants who said that they are using storytelling in classroom, even though they had no idea about what storytelling was. So again, there was the issue of clarifying what storytelling was emerged in this part of the research. In terms of the ICT usage of the respondents, we can see that a lot of them consider that their skills are good or enough for their purposes, for what they are using in their life or in their teaching process. But in terms of the use of ICT in teaching processes, a lot of the respondents said, more than 60%, that they do use ICT in their teaching process. And here we have a detailed situation on the countries. In terms of the familiarity with digital storytelling, again, more than 50% of the respondents are saying that yes, they are familiar with digital storytelling, that they have heard about digital storytelling. But when looking at the reasons why the other respondents said that they haven't heard about storytelling, where we can see here the highest percentage of response is 30.2 for the lack of courses on the topic, so the lack of training and specialization on the topic, and the need for training emerged here. So once again, it gave value to what we were doing in the project. This is in terms of the digital tools that they think that would be most useful for digital storytelling, and we have only PowerPoint as the most useful and used in digital storytelling. When asked if they thought that digital storytelling was useful for their target students, 85% said yes, it's very useful and important for our students. The intention to learn more about using digital storytelling in education. Most of the participants, they emphasize that yes, they would be interested to attend additional training on digital storytelling. The option for collaboration in digital storytelling related projects, 60% of them said that yes, they would like to participate, but they weren't really sure if they had the opportunity to do that very soon. The option to participate to a free digital storytelling course, almost half of them said that yes, they would be interested, and 40% they said that very soon they would be interested if that course was provided. I think this is important to have a look at in terms of the training needs and expectations that teachers have regarding such a digital storytelling course. Of course, they have listed a lot of things, but we have here 3 categories, and they express interest in terms of their students' perspectives, of the teaching efficacy, and the communication with their students. So digital storytelling, course on digital storytelling would not only improve their ICT skills or their personal skills, but it would definitely benefit them from many perspectives and different dimensions of their teaching practice. Yes, just in terms of the digital storytelling softwares that we could have proposed to them, they said that they need to be very easy to use in general. Okay, these are some conclusions, but again, the needs analysis report is available on our website, and you can go there and have a closer look at it. 10 minutes is not enough to talk about the research. Okay,
Well, my name is Katarina, and I am representing Advances. I work for Advances, the project coordinator, and I will present one of the main products of this project, the Learning Handbook. So, the Learning Handbook is meant to support teachers, trainers, and educators to deliver the training using the methodology of storytelling, okay? So, of course, that we had to do it in innovative way also, otherwise we will not be accomplishing our main goals. And regarding
the research results that Maria already present, the partnership decided to tell the story in the handbook divided in 3 main chapters. So the first chapter introduces you to the storytelling. It's the theoretical background about storytelling. What is storytelling? How can we build our stories, and what is the impact on the audience? And of course, how can I build it? What are the main elements and the types of stories and the tools that I can use to write my story? The second chapter introduces you to the digital and communication technologies. You can find a lot of programs like VideoScribe, this one, that you can use and try and practice to tell your story to different audiences. You have a little story of ICT, and then you have a lot of programs, but of course, the usage that you have to be careful using some of the images, sounds, and videos that you can get from internet. Okay. In the third chapter, you have the final one. Is the digital storytelling. Okay, so you can pick the story that you built in the first chapter. You can use the images, the sounds, the videos that you practice in the second chapter, and you can build your your digital story, okay, that you can share, you can teach, and you can tell your story. So along with in the 3 chapters, you have a lot of web links to access to external contents and to have tutorials, practical examples in a clear, appealing approach. This is the images of some pages of our learning handbook that have just a little bird that will appear throughout the manual. And in the end of each chapter, we have annexes that we will give you a lot of examples of case studies in different educational levels, and also to apply to health and business. Okay, you cannot only apply storytelling teaching to students, but you can also apply to different contexts, including in companies. Okay, and you have exercises that will help you building your story in the first chapter, as I said, and practicing some programs, and then build your digital story. So in the end, we have an innovative learning handbook that will help you telling your story. Okay, thank you.
Ok, muchas gracias. Seguimos con la jornada, ¿de acuerdo? Ahora va a empezar el taller. Peter os va a explicar en qué consiste y que surja la creatividad.
Didn't know what you said, but anyway, welcome to this workshop we are going to do about storytelling. And my first question would be, how many of you are thinking that they are storytellers? Raise your hands. Oh, not very much, but I can assure you, you all are storytellers, and we will prove that in this workshop. My name is Peter Fruman. I'm an associate partner in Dialogue from the Netherlands. My partner Ivor can't be here because of private reasons, so I'll be doing the workshop with you. Well, storytelling. What is it? To start with, storytelling, we can say a story is the shortest distance between two people, and we will try to experience that in this workshop. The other thing is that we are all based on true stories. Yes? Who doesn't believe that? Because it's true. All our lives are based on stories. When we go back to our youth until now, today, we have always a story to tell. There's always a reason to tell a story, and we are storytellers from nature. We are born storytellers, all of us. So, what we're going to try to do is, I will ask you in a few minutes to tell stories to each other. So just look around if you want to form pairs with each other. And the ones who are watching the streaming video are invited to participate in this workshop as well, if you want to. So, what a famous English storyteller once told me, when you tell a story, you have to imagine things, you have to see things yourself. Otherwise, other people won't see it in their minds when you tell the story. So, if I say, there's a frog beneath your feet, and now it's hopping away, you probably will see your frog that is hopping away, but you will see it because I see it, because it's over there now. Right? So let me start with, so I thought that was a very good idea to start with thinking about story, to visualize first what you want to tell. So what I see now, right now, in front of my eyes, I see two young people. I see a river going through a small valley. And I see two young people, and they're dressed in bathing clothes. And there are trees along the side of the river. There are mountains in the back, and there's a sun up. And then I see two older people approaching. And this is what I see. But what is going to happen? Do you think that this is a story? Anyone? No. It's just a description, but it helps you to recall a certain moment and describe it to another person. Yes? So, what we're going to try to do now is, I want to ask you, and also the people who are streaming and want to participate in this workshop from a distance, I want to ask you, think of a moment in your life where something really changed for you, something impressed you very much. Think of that moment. And make a drawing for yourself of that moment. So just the situation. Who was there? What was the surrounding? Where was it? And just take your time and make a drawing for yourself. Think of a very important moment in your life where something changed for you. And try to make a drawing as good as you can. I mean, you just, if you have two people, just make a circle and so on. So just take 5 minutes for that. Do you understand what I say? Yes? So start drawing. Okay. Right. I'll give you 5 minutes for that, so we have a short pause. And look at me once more, because I'm going to explain what you have to do. First, choose a partner you would like to share your story with. Yeah? And if you have your partner, if you have found your partner, just take one's hands and put them up. Yeah? So I can see all the pairs. Yes? Yes? I just want to hold your hand. Just look at the following things. Ask for yourself the question, when did it start? How did it come to this situation? How did it come to this situation? When did it start? Who was there? Where was it? And then what happened after that? Yes? And then, what was the thing that started this change in your life? So think of a thing like suddenly we heard footsteps, or one day I met this person, and so on and so on. So where did it happen? Where did it start? Right? And then what happened afterwards? And then think of what changed for you. And after that, you can ask yourself, why is this story so important to me? What have I learned from it? Or what kind of insight have I got from that story? And tell it also to the other person, right? So I will give each one of you, each one of the pair has about 10 minutes to tell his story to the other one, right? So I will time it. We will time it. After 10 minutes, we say break, and then the other one tells the story to his partner, right? So 5 minutes, enough for you? So are there any people who would like to share a story? Or have you heard a story that would tell to the others? An interesting story. Don't be afraid. You are storytellers. Because I heard that. I mean, all the buzzing and all the arms going like that and pointing at things. And you are storytellers, right? So is there anyone who wants to share a story in Spanish if you want to? Because someone will translate for me what it's all about. Anyone? Too shy? Come on, you're Spanish. You're proud people. Okay, that's one. So just stand up and.
But I have to say my story, or I have to say
Well,
story.
whatever. If she allows you to tell her story,
I will tell
you
my
can
story.
tell her story, but you can also tell your story.
It's better. I feel more comfortable
Okay.
talking about
Right.
my story. Okay, so hello to everybody. My name is Ana Maria, and my story begins in the year 2010. More exactly in 20 January, and it's the day that my son was born. I remember that day we were in the hospital in our room, and I remember the moments when they brought my baby to me. My baby wasn't born naturally, so I didn't have the opportunity to see him when he was born. So I saw him hours later. I remember that moment with my family was the moment that I gave him my breast with my husband. We're all the family in there. And what changed for me is what I think the most important thing is that I learned to love somebody in a special way, in a way that I've never known before, that I can have that feelings for someone. And this is my story.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now we have one story. Maybe we can get a second story. Any of you guys, maybe. Oh, a woman has taken it first, so I would like to have. No? Who's man enough to tell a story? Please rise.
It was a summer night. It was the beginning of September. It was still quite warm. It was the end of the summer. It was a summer night, and my wife and I were having dinner together. My wife was scheduled to have a C-section in a couple of days because we were expecting a baby, and the labor was anticipated to be complicated. So we were just chatting, and we then went to sleep, and she began to feel a bit sick. We thought, is this it? Is this coming? After a while, she began to have contractions, and we decided to call the hospital. It was late at night. It was around 1 or 2 a.m. So we were worried that the doctor might not be available and that there might be complications. So we rang the hospital. We went to the hospital. My wife got into a room, and I began to wait. So it was a long wait. After a while, my parents-in-law came to the room for support, and we were told that the doctor had arrived and that he had been taken to the operation room. And there was more waiting. After a while, my head began to think of possible complications, things that might go wrong, and I began to worry. But after about 2 hours of waiting, the doctor came to deliver the good news. We had a daughter, beautiful daughter, and everything had gone okay. But we could still not see the daughter. We had to wait. After a while, a nurse came and said, "Sir, would you like to meet your daughter?" And that's the picture I have here. So finally, after all the complications and worries, I walked to the room where they kept the babies, and she brought the baby to me in her arms, and I was about to kiss her, and she said, "You don't think you're going to kiss your baby, beautiful, precious baby without beard?" She was saying, "This is a precious soft baby," and then she laughed, and she let me kiss my first daughter. And that was an emotional moment, and we've had other babies after that, but being the first, it was very special. And of course, our lives and really our nights changed dramatically, and they've never been the same ever since.
Thank you very much. Before I go to my presentation, I want to show you something that we are also talking about in our course, of course. That's about visualizing on the one hand. On the other hand, we are talking about what is a story, and what's the structure of the story, and what is the shape of the story. We will explain that. I must say I had my part in this project as a co-author of the handbook for art and the online course, and my perspective was storytelling, not so much the ICT thing, that's other people. Yeah. And so I will take you with me to have a look at the story structure and the story shape. Of course, stories can have different shapes, but I'll give you a simple shape. So when you begin, given the structure, we have a setting where we establish the beginning situation, right? And which can be an everyday situation or any situation at all, and which is quite normal. And suddenly something develops or something happens where we say, okay, we have to act. There's something I have to do, or something is happening to me, and I want to change it, right? So this is the theme. I want to change something. I want to get somewhere. Let's say I have to, in my case, when I take my story as an example, I was traveling with my wife through Spain, through the Pyrenees, and it was a very hot day, and there was this little river, and we decided to have a quick dip into the water before we travel on, right? So then, when we came there was we just wanted to go into the water. We were wondering, is it allowed to go into the water? Because we didn't know. It was in 1977, something like that. So it's short after President Franco had died. Was it 77, 76? I don't know. Yeah, right. So we didn't know, well, are we allowed to do that? So, and then this older couple came walking along the river in their outdoor clothing and everything. And we started to talk with them, is it allowed to go into the river? And we were talking about this or that, not very much important things. And then it happened. Suddenly, I said, is it allowed to go into the river? And the man said to me, of course, we are a democracy now. So, right? So this is what happened. And I was thinking afterwards, what's happening and what changed for me at that moment was that I started to think about what is democracy and how important democracy is for us and how important it is for those people that they have a free choice again, that they can talk freely and that they have the choice to choose whoever they want to and talk their thoughts, what they're thinking. So this is very important for me. And I thought, well, how we should cherish, that was the lesson I've learned, how we should cherish democracy, how important it is for us, even if we don't realize it for ourselves. Freedom of speech, freedom of thinking, freedom of choice. So, you see, this is the plot that is unfolding. This is the theme, and this is the plot, which is my thinking about democracy. And this is what I've learned: cherish democracy. Right? So this is the shape of the story, and this is the structure of the story. And sometimes stories can have different shapes, of course. If something really goes wrong, then the shape will go like that, first down. And then something will happen, somebody will help you, and it will go up. And then you will have learned something again, right? It's all in the course. You will find it back in the course. Right, so this is, for me, this is end of workshop. Did you like to do it? Or was it to do it? Can I have some, how did it feel for you? Can I have some comments from you? How was it to tell a story to another person, a personal story? How was that? Was it difficult?
No.
No? So you see, it's not so difficult to tell a story, right? Okay, so next thing I want to talk about to you is something which really has started to interest me, and this is where do stories come from? Anna just told us that the stories go way back in time, very long time. But I was also interested, and I came to this interest in where stories do come from, in where do they really come from? What is their function for us? It must have a function because we are telling stories all the time, so there must be a function to that, a vital function, probably. Okay, so I will take you into the evolutionary perspective of storytelling very shortly. I only scratched the surface, so just to give you an idea, I'm still working on it for myself. I'm finding out a little bit more about it. And I was inspired by a very interesting author, Brian Boyd, who has written a book on the origin of stories. And he's written a book about the origin of stories because he thinks that there is an evolutionary aspect or function to storytelling. And he's a professor in literature and linguistics. And I think his ideas, his propositions are very interesting. So let me take you on this short journey when we're talking about adaptation, because we always have to adapt to our environment, to other people, and so on. This is something which is in us and which helps us to survive. So, what Brian Boyd proposes is that storytelling derives from play. Because when we see that in animals, in mammals, in birds, and other animals, that in very early stages of their life, they are playing. And why are they playing? Not only because it's fun to play, but because you can try out things when you play, which is very healthy to learn to be more flexible in certain situations. It's also very interesting because it develops and strengthens neural pathways, not only your motion, you know, your muscles and so on, but also pathways in your mind, cognitive pathways. It helps you to anticipate the actions of the other, right? Is he attacking, or is he pretending to attack, or do I have to attack myself, or do I have to flee, just run away? It helps you to anticipate certain actions of the other, which we also see in storytelling. When you hear a story, that's the proposition Brian Boyd does, we already anticipate on what's going to happen next. You have some ideas about what's going to happen next. So anticipation is another thing that is developed during play. Also, the social give and take that you see in some animals, but of course also in humans. That if I give you something, I get something back. If I help you, you will help me back. This is another thing that we can try out playing as well. And what we see in humans is, of course, this role play or pretend play. So I'll be the mother, and you will be the father, or I'm just pretending to be angry, but I'm not really angry. I'm just yeah, right. So we recognize that. So you have learned that from play. The other thing, he says, is storytelling is deriving from another thing that is art. And this art comes from our appetite for information. When we start with looking at things, started looking at things as humans, we started to see certain things, certain structures. We started to see certain patterns. When we see things, information, there's a lot of information around us. So if to be able to cope with this information, we have to package that information into meaningful packages, so to say, meaningful arrays, which gives us patterns. So we start to learn about structures, and we start to learn about patterns. You see the spiral that must have a function in a way, and maybe it has meaning. We have the seasons, for instance, which is also a pattern of changing landscapes and things like that. When we look up to the skies, we see maybe the Milky Way, or we see a star constellation. And when we recognize, because this is, to our eyes, this is a structure or a certain pattern, we want to attach meaning to that as well. Why is this form makes me think of something? And then I will give it a name, right? You can't see it here, but this is a constellation of Scorpio, and the story is attached to that. I'll come to that later. So from this meaning-seeking, pattern-seeking behavior, we come to real art. So we translate things that we see in nature. We translate it to drawings, which have a meaning as well. We can even draw it more abstract, and even more abstract, and it still will have meaning to us because it contains information, and we have a certain knowledge about the world. So we can also give a certain meaning to abstract things. So this could still be a tree, right? And when we come to things like that, like Mondrian, so you can also give an explanation to that. You can also make it meaningful because our recognition of these things becomes open-ended. So there are more possibilities to interpret what we see. And with sight, seeing things, there's also sound. Like we learn to speak, we got the language as well. And when we got the language, we wanted to translate language maybe onto other surfaces. So we started to think of symbols for words, for nouns, for whatever. And we started to design letters, which are symbols. Right? So all these things, like play, are a training ground or playground for our minds. It helps us also, all these things also help us during our lives to develop new neural pathways to understand more, getting a more complex understanding of the world. Right? So, and when it comes to storytelling, I think everything comes together. This is what Brian Boyd also proposes. So there's the element of play, which is the basis for everything in a way. There's the pattern recognition, structure recognition. There's art and symbols, and there's word and speech. And from play to art to storytelling, the art of storytelling has all contained in it, because we are playing with words, we are playing with emotions, we are playing with expectations of others. But we also, as a listener, anticipate, and we want to know where it's going. We become curious. We have pleasure in listening. It evokes things in us as well. So this is also a cognitive playground. Again, storytelling is a cognitive playground which prepares us for things we have to learn, to teach, and so on. So storytelling in education, in training, in real life, is first of all engaging. When you start telling a story and you tell it well, people will be prepared and willing to listen. Like this picture shows from Dead Poets Society. I think every teacher should watch this movie and see how we can teach by storytelling. It's a really beautiful movie to watch, and there's a lot to learn from it. The other thing is storytelling evokes emotions. Evokes emotions in the person itself, but in a way it also evokes emotions connected to the protagonists in the story. So we start to identify with the protagonist in the story, which is in effect evoking empathy. So we're, as it were, walking in the shoes of the hero of the story, right? We can identify with. And these are the basic things that help us to attract listeners to our story. Yes. And when we take it a little bit further, when we look at storytelling, the function of storytelling in our societies and education, we can look at different kinds of literacy that come up. I mean, literacy is not only reading and writing, it's much more than that. So we can talk about social literacy, which is stimulated by storytelling. Through this engagement and emotion, it's also is something when we share stories, we really connect with each other. When we craft stories together, in a way you did this in the workshop as well. We have cooperation, we have collaboration. We invite others to collaborate with us. It's also getting a respect for the other person's story or the other person's opinions or culture, things like that. This is all social literacy and much more within social literacy. The second thing is critical literacy. How do we look at things? How do we look at the story? What does that evoke? How do we analyze a story? What do we learn from it? Does it make sense? Is there any meaning to the story? Do we understand the context in which the story has been told? It's important for both parties, for the storyteller and the listener, the teacher and the pupil. Does the teacher understand the context where he's teaching, classroom, outside, wherever? And how does he use this space for himself? And how does he make sense of that? And the same goes for the student. Does he understand the context in what the story is really going to tell? So meaning and sense making come into play. And critical literacy, social literacy help us when we come to the operational part of literacy, when we start to read and write. Because when we already know where the story is going, when we can anticipate, we can also anticipate where a sentence will go when we read the sentence. So we won't read the sentence word by word, but read the sentence as the story arc I just showed you, because you know where it is going. This is what a linguist calls story grammar, and which he says the Beaugrand is the name of the linguist. He says that story grammar precedes grammar in operational literacy. So then we come to operational literacy, which gives us grammar, structure, which gives us symbols, letters, things like that, numbers, things like that. And also in the structure of a story, there are built-in elements like, because it has a structure, it helps us to remember things better. So when you hear a story, information in the story, not as facts, like that. When you hear information in the story, you will remember it better because it has made meaning to you. It has made sense to you. So you will remember the facts better when they are in the story. So saying that, this is something, sorry. I think is very important to consider in education. Can't help it.
Drink water.
So, the bottom line is storytelling is an adaptive trait. And we should use it. And we are using it. I hope I proved that. And now it's the right moment, because I'm coughing, to give the floor to Zorenos Martínez.
So, hi everybody, my name is Aristos Validis. I'm from the University of Western Macedonia in Greece. And now being the RCT expert of the consortium, and after the lovely presentation and performance by Peter and the video scribe technique that Katarina used in order to show you the handbook, I will try to amaze you by using a very sophisticated software for presentations that you may have not heard before. Sorry. Oops. No, it's the wrong one. It's this one. And let's go. So what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to show you a couple of examples that we have actually implemented in the school classroom. We have tested it mainly in kindergarten classes because I teach in an early childhood education department, so mainly we work with those ages. Just one slide of theory. It's how to use stories in classroom. We actually have two main categories of using stories in classroom. The stories can be read by the teacher, the educator, which in this case is going to have a story in order to present a subject, theory, a notion, anything, but in a more attractive way than just giving a lecture. Also, it will help the students understand what he's saying, help them interact with each other, and get to perceive knowledge in an easier manner. These stories can be then in a simple presentation format, or it can be highly interactive, where the students have a role within the story and their choices affect the story. The other category is stories created by the students. The students can act as story creators, story crafters, which enhances a set of literacy skills and dexterities. Critical thinking, argumentation, writing, especially when it is combined with collaboration, collaborative writing, then argumentation is a skill that is highly developed. So, finally, another point that I want to make is that stories can be created by an individual, but it can be also created by a group. The group doesn't have to be a group of students. It can be students with a teacher, students with their parents at home, and then bringing the stories in the classroom, so we can have all sorts of settings for that matter. So, the first example I'm going to show you is an interactive digital story that we created in order to teach physics in kindergarten. Specifically, we wanted to teach the notion of floating and sinking, which is a very difficult, literacy says that it's a very difficult issue to discuss at those ages. Usually, we talk about floating and sinking after the third grade. So, we used the digital storytelling. It was a whole classroom activity, and we tested it in a public kindergarten. We had the digital story, writing boards around the wall so that the students could formulate research hypotheses, and then we had water and objects in order to have experiments. What we did is we took a very well-known Aesop's myth. It's about an ant that tries to drink water from a river. It falls into the river and it starts drowning. So a pigeon flies over and it throws a leaf on which the ant climbs, and then it is saved. In order to return the favor, the ant bites a hunter that tries to shoot the pigeon. He misses and the pigeon is saved. So the actual myth, the original myth, is about doing something good, and then you will get something good in return. In our case, what we did is we stopped the story at the point where the pigeon throws something to the ant, and we have a set of choices. So depending on the choice that the students make, the story evolves differently. What we did is we had interviews with the children. I'm briefly explaining the classroom setting. We have interviews with the children whether to see what they think, how the perceptions are. Then we ask them to formulate research hypotheses in a big table. They draw arrows whether they thought that wood floats or sinks and things like that. Then we had a discussion with the whole classroom and showed them the digital story with poses to the whole classroom. Then we had them formulate new research hypotheses to see if the perception had altered because of the story. And finally, we did the experiments in order to verify the hypothesis that they had made. So I will show you a small video section of that. It's in Greek, of course. So we make it look like a theater performance. We have the curtain between scenes.
Μια φορά σε έναν καιρό, σε μια νομιλοφολιά μέσα στο δάσος, βγήκαν και βλέπετε μαγαζινάδια, καλά,
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a bit to get to the point where we have the choice. So it's the story of an ant that's happy in the woods and it decides to go away and have a...
Όμως, ένα από αυτά ήταν ανήσυχο και ζωηρό. Ήθελε να βγει από την
We reduce the sound from here also. And fast forward. So it reaches the river. The river says, okay, Lynn, drink from me, because it was thirsty. And eventually it falls. It drowns. And then the pigeon comes. And the ant is asking for help. So in this situation now, the pigeon has to choose. We have to choose what the pigeon is going to throw. We're asking, what do you prefer the pigeon to use in order to save the ant? So we have a rock, a piece of metal, a cork, and a piece of wood. Depending on the choice, we have a different evolution of the story. And that visualizes the result of trying a different material for the children. And we also try to evoke questions in their mind on what has a role in sinking or floating. Is it the material? Is it the size? Is it the shape? And things like that. So, okay, here it didn't succeed because it threw the rope, and then we have the choices again. And when we choose the wood, everything is fine. Let's go back. We did test it, and it's in Greek, you don't understand it, but if you see the size of the bars, the research hypothesis improved in the second case, and they actually understood things about elements that have a role in sinking and floating. The second example that I want to show is a totally different approach. It's a digital story in a presentation format, not interactive at all, which we built in order to teach the flow of information inside the computer system. And we wanted to make the children understand that actually elements that exist in my computer exist in your computer, in everybody's computer. In laptops, in CPU systems, in smartphones. We all have a processor, a memory, input devices, output devices, so that was the notion that we wanted to explain. Again, we tested it actually this year, in April, in a public kindergarten, and we had 4 phases for this activity. During the first phase, we had all around the classroom images of computer systems and electronic devices. So the children started wondering, what is this? Why is it here? Things like that. So a discussion was initiated. we ask them, do you recognize this? Do you have one at home? Do you know what it is for? Things like that. Then we presented the digital story in phase 2. It's actually about 13 minutes. Then we handed out printed cards with the heroes that appeared in the story, and we asked them to recognize them, recognize the sequence in which they appear, in order to show how the information flows, because it has to do with the order of appearance. And then we had a game in order to assess the new knowledge that they might have gained. So the story, it is about a little girl named Information, and she is adventurous. She likes to travel a lot, explore new worlds, and she had heard about the magical world of the computer. So she decides to go and find that world and explore it. Eventually, she reaches a sleeping computer, and she wakes the computer up by pressing the big red button in the front of the computer box. So we wanted to stress out that there's actually one button that turns on the computer. That was a misconception that we found during the first phase. Eventually, she's transferred inside the computer. She has to choose a letter, go through the keyboard door inside the computer. Actually, that is the house of the motherboard. There, she changes the letter with coins that have zeros and one on them. She meets Mr. RAM, Mr. CPU, and eventually she comes out from the printer through the USB room and through the monitor, through the graphics room, the VGA room. So these are our main characters. This is a little girl named Euphoria. This is the operating system, the bus from where information flows and it moves around, Mr. RAM, and the house of the motherboard. And this is the game. They drag and drop the sequence and try to remember how it was. Again, let's shift to the video. And I think that's it. Okay. Again, it's in Greek. And I think we have the sound is okay. So this is an introduction about the girl, and eventually she's in bed, very unhappy. Here she reaches the computer, she wakes up, and eventually she's transferred inside the computer. So let's go forward. She chose the P word, the P letter. This is the world. We wanted to show that inside the computer works. There's actually a whole city, very complex. Here she takes the bus. Okay, and here she reaches the house of the motherboard and she starts talking. And the motherboard actually says, remember, whoever you are going to be inside this house, you are going to see them also in other houses, like in other computer systems. So let's see, here she takes the coins. This is Mr. RAM, who has the memory of an elephant and can remember everything and will accompany you from room to room. This is Mr. CPU, who is getting very hot and has a fan next to him in order to cool down. And eventually, the trip leads here to the two rooms, the USB room and the graphics room. She changed the coins with the ticket in order to get to these rooms. Okay, and eventually she slides through a tunnel, that's a cable, and she comes out sliding outside the printer. And in the next section, she slides out the cable again, and she is on the screen. It's a window from where she sees the beautiful view of the computer world. Okay, so mainly that's the idea of the story. Go back. So we found that, of course, it was fun and interesting for the children. It's a story through a computer, so it was fun for them to watch. But they seem to understand that they have those heroes also in their computers and laptops and tablets at home, the ones that the parents use, and they were very anxious to go and meet them too. They understood that we have special places to go inside the computer, the input devices. They understood that we have special places to go outside the computer system, the output devices. They understood that the monitor and the printer are output devices. The keyboard is an input input device. So, apart from the limitation, it was a successful attempt. So, the third one, which I'm going to present more quickly, is an approach in which we ask the children to write stories. In this setting, we had 4 pairs. We introduced them a story as a poem, an incomplete story, and we asked them to complete it. The first pair used Tikatok environment. That's an online environment that presents an empty book, and you have to fill it in. They could find images from the internet, or they could draw, scan their drawings, and upload it there. The second and the third pair, we gave them an empty book, and one group had to draw illustrations, the other could acquire images from the internet, and the fourth group, we provided it with just a stack of papers, and we said, take as many as you need and create your stories. Some results, and then I will show you some examples. We had, when the digital medium was involved, we had larger numbers in matters of story size, scene changes, sceneries, the number of pages, the images used, the interconnection between the sceneries, the interconnection between the images and the actual text. So all was in favor of the digital approach. Some examples. These two are from the Group A, the Tikatok environment, and you can see they have in each page half illustration, half text. This is from Group B, illustration and text. This is from Group C. They drew on one side and wrote on the other side, and you open the book. And this is from the fourth group, which they actually, what they presented is 2 pages like that. They just divided each one to 1 page, drew something, wrote something on it with assistance of the researcher, and that was it. So, quickly, just some theory. I want to play the fancy academic role. So, how can digital storytelling be combined with contemporary learning theories and approaches? One way is to use the flipped learning technique. Flipped learning is what normally when we teach in class and we give homework for the children. The flipped learning technique is the other way around. We have them watch a small video of the theory at home, and then we have a workshop in class. So we have hands-on activities and we help them understand the learning material. So actually in this case, where does digital storytelling fit? It fits because a video is at least a personal narrative. The teacher giving a presentation, but it can be interactive. It can have many visual sound effects and all that. So it's actual digital storytelling. Or it can be like the examples that I showed you. We can combine it with gamification. Gamification is the approach of teaching by setting up a game setting and having the children play in order to learn something. So actually, when you design a good game, for the game to be engaging and interesting for the player, it has to have a good story. If it has a good story, you have a goal that you are after. You know how to go after the goal. So you have to have a good story to start with. If the game is digital, it is actually a form of digital storytelling, interactive digital storytelling. It gives context and meaning to the learning activities through the game. And finally, the collaborative learning setting. Here I want to make a distinction which is a common mistake between collaborative learning and cooperative learning. Usually what most of the people refer to as collaborative learning is we divide what we have to do into pieces, each one does his or her piece, and then we put it all together. That's cooperative, not collaborative. In collaborative, we need the parts from every member of the group in order to succeed. If we don't have one part, no one succeeds. The group fails. There are ways of scripting that, structuring that through steps and activities and deliverables. It's all in the literature. So I'm not going to stick into that, but I will present an idea with a jigsaw puzzle collaboration script. What is the jigsaw puzzle? We have groups, and each member of a group is assigned a role. In the second part of the jigsaw, the similar roles get together and they try to find information about their role. Then they are going back to their group and transfer the knowledge that they all together acquired. That knowledge is necessary for the group in order to complete its task. And just to make it clear, a small example. I had students form groups. Each one was assigned the role of a computer element, the memory, the CPU, the disk, anything. So the CPUs gather together and try to figure how CPU works, what it does, the history of the CPU, with which elements of a computer it collaborates with, how. And then they went back and they were asked to create stories and digitalize them or have a theatrical performance with their stories of how they would interact as pieces of the computer if it was, for example, a tablet and I was using it to read the news. That way, they have to really understand the information in order to express it through a story. So that's a teaching approach through storytelling. And I'm concluding with this one that comes out of teaching experience, mainly from our training session, for which we're going to talk later on. It's important to obey the structure of the story that Peter was so kind to demonstrate earlier. It's important as teachers to create stories and not digital lectures. Try to follow the curve. Don't make it a flat line and just saying things like we normally do in the class. Highlight issues. Don't just present them. Hide meanings within the story and the characters and the plot. Don't dictate them. This is correct, this is wrong, and all that. So that's not a good thing to do. Have a clear storyboard. It's all in the handbook and in the digital course. All the decisions about the digital story have to be made there. All the details. Describe the scenes. Don't rewrite the story by just putting a couple of images on the side. Use effects, sound effects, visual effects. They help. Don't just put a music carpet on the background. And don't let any of the senses, I'm stressing out the eye, but don't let any of the senses get bored while watching a teaching digital story. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is Paola Chetti, researcher at Fondazione Istud from Italy, partner of the History Project and Istud is a business school. With my intervention, I'd like to illustrate to you shortly an example of another possible application of storytelling applied in medicine. This is something really specific and different from what you have already listened to, but I just wanted to show you one of the potentialities of the use of stories. Because Istud includes also a healthcare and well-being area in which we carry out researches on quality of care using a particular approach named narrative medicine. a discipline based on a collection of stories. And we used this approach also in our courses addressed to adult professionals, in particular healthcare providers. So surely the two main definitions of narrative medicine from the two biggest international schools came from the first one from the Center for Humanities of Care, King's College of London, and underlines the importance, the level of relationship between a physician and patient. And narrative medicine is defined as what happens between physician and patient, from collecting information on events before the disease to how the disease is displayed, giving attention to psychological, social, and ontological effects. And a second definition came from the Columbia University of New York, Rita Sharon, who enlarged this definition to healthcare organizations. And she says that narrative medicine fortifies clinical practice with a narrative competence to recognize, observe, metabolize, interpret, and be moved by stories of illness, and helps doctors, nurses, social workers, and therapists to improve the effectiveness of care by developing the capacity for attention, reflection, representation, and affiliation with patients and colleagues. So, narrative medicine is a strategic instrument to understand the real patient's need. And through their stories, we can understand their living with the therapy, with the disease, their needs, their expectations. But we can apply the narrative medicine also to healthcare providers and understand their needs, expectations, and their living, their daily clinical practice. Joining these points of view, we can obtain also important indications to improve the quality of healthcare services. Why using stories? Because stories can catch what questionnaires don't catch, giving more complete information and sometimes discovering new realities, new elements. So we can address narrative medicine to all the stakeholders who are involved in a pathway: patients, caregivers, physicians, and the other healthcare providers, but also healthcare managers, associations of patients, and finally the whole societies. Although each story is personal and not reproducible, we can see common recurring elements in stories of illness, and we usually analyze the stories basing on this model developed by the Center for Humanities of Care, in which disease is represented as the element of, which breaks the balance, a balanced situation of wellness. And then we can identify three main phases during these stories. The first, falling ill, the first part of the story where symptoms led to diagnosis. Being ill, the second part of the story, the living, the care, the therapies, the pathway, with all the connected reactions. And finally, these stories can end with a happy ending, getting better, or with an happy solution, getting worse, with all the connected feelings. We can see several characters in these stories. Usually the disease is the protagonist because it's the character who bursts into the scene, breaks the balance, and it's the main enemy of the story. Then we have the narrator who can tell the story in first or in third person, addressing to himself or herself, to physicians or to an undefined public. And some other characters can appear like physicians and the healthcare team, who can be enemies or friends, depending if they are able to care or are not able to care. Families and friends, again, they can be friends or enemies, depending if they support or not the ill person. And usually we have all the others, who are all the people who don't live the same situation. And usually they are the enemy, because they don't understand. So if collected and analyzed with a specific method, stories can contribute to reach the deep understanding and empathy in a relationship of care, to analyze the relationship between the healthcare team, physicians, and families, to build a therapeutic alignment, to find the key to obtain adherence to therapy, to develop the pathway, to evaluate the efficacy of a therapy or of a pathway, to answer inner requests, and to experiment the real consequences of a disease, both on lives of people and from the organizative point of view. So why writing a story of illness? Because people writing is in a free space in which they can reflect, find comfort and awareness, and also they can share their and exchange experiences, reducing the distance with all the others who don't live the same situation. But reading a story of care is important for healthcare providers as well. And there are several papers who report how much narrative medicine can increase skills of reflection, understanding, and empathy, which are not accessory qualities, but they can change the daily clinical practice. So, stories can give relational competencies, increasing the skill of listening, understanding, and contributing to move the focus from caring a disease to caring a ill person. And in some cases, stories can also give clinical competencies, helping to reach the correct diagnosis, to evaluate the efficacy of a therapy, and to answer the inner questions and doubts that otherwise you risk to not discover. Stories of illness have always been told, for example, in literature or in art. We can go on in opera, and more in cinema. And nowadays, one of the most common tool to tell a story of illness is the digital world. For example, there is the so-called YouTubing illness phenomenon, in which through video on YouTube, people tell their story of illness, and the audience becomes a witness of their condition. And this is a sort of dialogue that can have an important role to contribute to reflect and to understand and to make people awareness. The following link is an example of a possible use of a digital tool to make people awareness of a particular situation. If we have time, this is a 3-4 minutes video. It's really interesting to see how much with a few words and in a few minutes the message is let so in a so efficient way. Maybe I could go on with my presentation. I'm going to finish, and then we can see this video if you like. I just want to say you surely that there are different ways of collecting stories. We can collect stories in free formats like diaries, free text, parallel charts from physicians, or in semi-structured forms like fairy tales, interviews, or other structured plot. And usually we cross this qualitative information with quantitative data from a questionnaire. And this is, in our opinion, the best way to honoring the stories of illness with a particular method which increase the potentiality of this instrument. So thank you for your patience and see.
Estar un poco así, ¿no? Con la fibra sensible. Peter, creo que quieres decir algo. Un minuto.
Probably that's okay. It's just after this beautiful movie. I want to stress another thing that is a big theme in the European Union. Big target of the European Commission is to fight illiteracy and low literacy. So just consider that when you think of digital storytelling, because it can help you to work with people who are low literate, illiterate, or dyslexic. Digital storytelling will help to teach people as well, but also will help those people to express themselves better, like Paola just showed in narrative medicine, for instance. There might be patients, for instance, who are illiterate or low literate and cannot write, but they can tell you a story. So you can also film those stories, which will probably help other people as well. So this is one of the other aspects of digital storytelling that can help in education and also adult education. It's just a thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Bueno, os comento un poco cómo queda el resto de la jornada. Tenemos ahora un ratito antes de que tener la pausa para ir a comer, por si alguien quiere hacer preguntas, comentarios, aprovechando los diferentes especialistas que tenemos presentes en la sala. Ya sabéis, está Tarrenos, que es experto en educación utilizando storytelling digital, Peter, nuestro storyteller particular, Paola más sobre el tema de medicina, o alguna pregunta específica sobre el manual de aprendizaje que hemos visto. Y luego os quería comentar, pues bueno, que volvemos a las 4 otra vez, siempre en esta misma sala. A partir de las 4 empezaremos a presentar el curso digital, ¿vale? Lógicamente no todo, porque son muchas horas, pero sí os daremos algunas pinceladas. Chris, de Polonia, han sido los encargados de hacerlo digitalmente el curso, os contará un poco cómo ha sido el proceso, y Peter o Tarrenos os informarán también del proceso creativo, no solamente la parte digital, sino también la historia, porque el curso es un curso de digital storytelling a través del storytelling. Se cuenta una historia en el curso. Y después, la última parte de la jornada, tendremos un storyteller de aquí, de Zaragoza, José Luis Galar. No sé si alguno lo conocéis o habéis tenido la oportunidad de escucharle. Y entonces, bueno, os invito a hacer preguntas ahora, aprovechando a los expertos que tenemos por aquí, y espero veros también hoy por la tarde.
I just wanted to make one small comment regarding the examples that I showed. The first example with the interactive story with the hand and the pigeon was created by a kindergarten teacher that didn't know anything about programming, and the only thing she knew about computers is how to turn them on and write in Word, and she created that in 2 weeks. I'm just saying that it is easy. It's not that difficult, and don't be afraid to experiment with this technique. It can be a little tiring at the beginning because you need a lot of playing around in order to get used to the tools and the effectiveness of the technique. But after that, it just flows. It's much easier. Eventually, you will understand how good it is. The second example was created by students, 2 students of mine, in 4 days. So they're actually easy. They painted everything, they scanned it, and they created that small video clip. So don't be afraid to try it, and don't be afraid to ask people around. There are a lot of people that know a lot of things about ICT tools, and they can show you. The tools are everywhere, so pay attention to the stories, the story curve, and the rest will come.
Muchas gracias por la asistencia y nos vemos esta tarde. Gracias.
I want to show you a short video presenting of my job in this project.
Storytelling. My name is Chris Lewandowski, and I am responsible for creating the visual side of the digital storytelling course and e-learning platform. For the purposes of the digital storytelling course, I created the e-learning platform visually similar to the online service of our project, which you can find at the www.tstory.eu address. The menu, which is situated on the left of the course sites, enables the quick access to a specific lesson as well as the access to the online version of the handbook. Users have access to the quizzes, which are testing of the participants' knowledge, and the forum of users of the course. On the forum, users can exchange the knowledge as well as present their digital stories. The course has been prepared in the form of video lessons in an accessible manner to convey relevant knowledge to course participants. The course is divided in 3 phases. Every of above phases contains a few lessons.
Phase 1, storytelling. Lesson 1, the story of storytelling. Lesson 2, how a story works. Lesson 3, build a story. Lesson 4, activities with stories. Phase 2, digital and information communication technologies. Lesson 1, digital and ICT tools. Lesson 2, working with. Lesson 3, e-activities. Phase 3, digital storytelling. Lesson 1, using digital storytelling, potential and impact. Lesson 2, synchronizing stories and technology. Lesson 3, build a digital story.
Lessons are arranged in such a way so to gradually transfer the necessary knowledge. The visual side of the course is prepared in such a way that the course participants learn about various methods of showing the content in the form of digital storytelling. I have used a wide range of visual techniques as simple black and white drawings, whiteboard drawings, video scribes, color-created pictures both with analog technologies as well as raster and vector digital form, static and moving photographs, animations from simple to more complex. And video.
Now you're ready to make a script out of your story.
In the course, I have used also tutorials prepared by our Greek partner, Mr. Teranos Bratidis.
Filters menu, enhance, red line remover.
Academic contents are enriched with examples of poems, short stories.
As the sun set, she spotted him beyond the distant reach of the massive tree.
And sample lessons in the form of digital stories.
So he started calculating and came up with a theory of gravity and weight. All objects on Earth, and of course in space, with mass have weight.
Most of the technologies are so simple that even not advanced in ICT participants will be able to use them when creating their digital stories. I hope that the course is clear and understandable and that will allow master the technique of digital for everyone concerned.
Al final de esta primera parte tendremos tiempo para que hagáis preguntas sobre el curso, sobre las diferentes técnicas que se han utilizado, cómo se creó, de unos diálogos y de unos contenidos, cómo se pasó a hacer un storyboard y ahí cómo se pasó directamente al vídeo, ¿vale? Vamos a empezar ahora a contaros un poquito cómo ha sido la experimentación de este curso que hemos realizado en los 7 países que formamos parte de este proyecto. Paola.
Again, I just want to introduce to you shortly the following phase that we carry out after having realized our learning handbook and the digital course, the phase of test and validation of our learning material. And after this, my introduction, each partner will present to you the national specific training sessions, because we realized different experiences depending on our context. So maybe it's different, it's interesting for you to see different possibilities offered by this course. After having realized the core of our project, so the learning handbook and the digital course, we organized 7 pilot training sessions, each per country, with the objective to validate our learning material and to collect feedbacks from our participants. Among the main expected results, we tried to involve at least 70 participants. This phase was managed by ISUD with the tutoring support from Dialogue and the technical support from HAHE. We set up the guidelines to facilitate partners' work, guarantee synergy in all the countries to ensure quality and efficiency of our materials, and finally to refine our products on the basis of the collected feedbacks. But this document, of course, intended to give partners useful indication, but at the same time, each partner was free to organize these sessions in different educational contexts and with different organizational settings to validate the feasibility of the course for various possible users. So we set up indications for participants' profile, the dissemination of the activity, the pilot chronogram, the development requirements, how to carry on these training sessions, and the tutoring support, and the final evaluation requirements. For what concerns participants' profile, we addressed to at least 10 participants in each country, representative of teachers, trainers, and educators from all levels of education, so from the kindergarten to adult trainers. Each participant was given a preliminary information request template in which we collected information like, of course, name, nationality, age, but also motivations, level of education, and previous possible experiences with digital storytelling. All trainers had to be involved for the whole pilot training. We disseminated this activity using our key actors database and on our history website and on social networks. These pilot sessions were carried out from June to September of this year. Each partner had to realize at least 2 days of validation, both in classroom and at distance, in order to test the feasibility of the course in both the context. Participants in these training sessions, participants had the opportunity to work directly on the course and on the handbook, and to give their feedback and possible suggestions to improve the material. We foresaw also online tutoring managed by In Dialogue through the realization of a forum online in English, and we define a national tutor for each country. And there was also a technical support from HAHE. At the end of these training sessions, we collected the feedbacks from participants through a satisfaction questionnaire. And we put together and analyzed these feedbacks and realized a final evaluation report which was at the basis of our following phase, the refining of the wood program. These are our quantitative results. We realized 25 in-classroom sessions with 174 participants and online sessions with 141 participants for a total amount of 315 participants from all the partners. And the last hour phase was the refining of the full training program, basing on the collective feedback. And in this way, we are come to the end of our project. And at this point, I leave partners to tell you each national session, but maybe I can start with the Italian sessions. I prepared a short presentation. What have we done in Italy? We organized our training sessions in the northern of Italy, in the area of Milano, in June. We involved the three main target groups: adult trainers, kindergarten, primary and secondary school teachers, and future educators, with a total amount of 31 participants. We organized two in-classroom sessions. In the first day, participants worked on storytelling through exercises, examples taken from the handbook, and they started to write their own story. In the second day, they worked on ICT tools and on some specific programs and softwares. And they realized a script and a storyboard of their story, created at the end their own digital story. Participants appreciated a lot learning content and the structure of the course, and also the possibility to build their own digital story step by step. And some new ideas came, for example, from other trainers who started to reflect on the possible use of digital storytelling to realize a sort of digital curricula with their postgraduate students. So new stimulus were born from this activity. And I'd like to conclude this short presentation with a short movie in which we collected some of the realized digital stories. They are in Italian, but it's just a minute to show you the different possibilities also to create a digital story in a very few time and in a very easy way.
Quindi decise di mollare tutto per immergersi nella natura. Natura dove incontrò un sacco di nuovi amici.
Flipper è sempre stato un delfino curioso e goloso.
Aveva suonato la chitarra sin da bambino, ma non aveva mai potuto fondare la sua band.
Ma mangia picciato bene stamattina.
Uè, Raoni, Netti, non è che per tutto tempo, io lavoro, produco, da stamattina ho già stirato 37.000 camicie, 24 lenzuola matrimoniali, poi non so se non date la mia potenza a vapore della Madonna.
Sì, anche se della spiegazione, su Magna Magna cresceva un albero di panigliani. Gli abitanti del pianeta, i magnoni, veneravano l'albero come Dio e ne mangiavano i derivati frutti.
Non sono brevetti. Tutti gli altri sono dritti e armoniosi. Io solo sono storto.
So I will now speak shortly about the presentation, the pilot sessions in Portugal. Perhaps we may have some minutes at the end of the pilot presentations to discuss the storyboard that we developed to the digital course. Let's see if we have a few minutes at the end to explain how we built the storyboard. In Portugal, for those who know Portugal, it's right next door for Europe, and it's a country of many wonders. But unfortunately, the Porto wine doesn't save us from having still some problems in education. And still we need to find ways to engage students and to make learning and education to be more interesting and more appealing to their own needs. So we try to find somehow a way to involve the students, the trainers, and the professors with a methodology that could help them to be more creative and more interesting in their subjects. So Advances presented in Portugal 2 options for the pilot sessions under the T-Story project. We had a first session organized in face-to-face sessions. So we had a group of trainers, adult trainers, professional trainers, teachers, and also representatives from the Association of Professors in Porto attending this face-to-face session. This lady in the right side of the picture is the facilitator of the first module of the course. She's an expert on storytelling, and she was helping the trainees to build their own stories that they used afterwards in the module 2 and 3 of the course to become digital. So at these first sessions, they had two facilitators. One, Clara, to the part of the storytelling, to build up a story, to present that story to an audience. And then they had Claudio, that helped them with the digital tools. This is just an example of what they did. They had to build a story, a personal story, an organizational story, wherever they want, and they had to present it to the small group they were working on. And Clara then gave some feedback on the way they presented the story, the way they build the story, and the way they can improve the story to engage the audience. It's freezing the image. So then they had to work on the digital side of the stories, and they also had to make some presentations to the small group where they were working with the support of Claudio, and Claudio gave some feedback at the end so that they can know other ways that they could use to work on their story. Then we had the second option for attending the course, that it was the online course using a different platform than the one that Chris was showing, but at the end it's generally the same. And we had also 18 participants in one of the training editions, with 2 facilitators also helping their learning approaches. And this is an example of a story, just a short minute, a story that one of the trainees organized. You cannot hear the sound, but it has voiceover and music, and it goes up and down the music to follow the video.
Que todos se rápido de satisfação. O cavalito relinchou e pôs as patas dianteiras no ar. Que Messi estava ali, mas logo irrequieto, o cavalito olhou lá longe o pinhal tão verde e resolveu trotar até lá. Sabe, ali aprecia com as andorinhas que voavam em busca do inseto.
Just a short example. We know for sure that these short pilot tests that we have been conducting in all the countries will not save the world, will not save education, but at least we managed to have a lot of smiles in our training sessions in all of the countries, and we expect to have much more after the project ends in different experience that we will for sure have in all of our partners' countries. So thank you.
Our pilot testing was conducted in July this year, and we had a lot of adventures with the training sessions, because technology and especially internet were not really our friends in that moment. We kept moving from one place to the other in order to find a good connection to work with the course. But in the end, we made it. So we met we hosted the pilot training sessions in July 2014. These sessions, they took place both at the West University Timișoara and at the premises of IRIA, and this happened mainly because of the internet connection issues, and we kept moving from one place to the other. But in spite of that, the participants were so motivated since the beginning to carry on with the work that in spite of all the troubles, they stayed there with us, and they were really eager to finish their stories by the end of the course. The course was facilitated by two teachers from the university who teach ICT at the Educational Sciences Department, so ICT applied to education training. Some facts about the participants: we had 31 individual participants attending, and we were very happy to have managed to gather participants from all educational levels, starting from kindergarten till university professors. We were ICT professors, university ICT professors. Others were running teacher education departments in universities. So we had a great variety of participants. But what was the most interesting, and it was very attractive for the learning facilitator seniors that we have in Timișoara. We have a seniors association which is very active, and they were very curious to see, what's this thing with storytelling, because telling stories to people, it's something that characterizes old people. So for them, it was a discovery that they were doing this, but they really did not acknowledge it. So it was a good opportunity for them to reflect and to see in more practical ways and more learning directed ways how they can use all the knowledge they have in order to improve their activities or whatever they are doing. The teaching subject of the participants, they were again various. So this heterogeneity of the group, both in terms of the educational level and the teaching subject, was a very interesting on one side, and on the other side a very challenging thing to handle by the facilitators. Okay, we decided to follow the usual structure of the course, meaning that we started the first day with storytelling. We went on in the second session with the ICT part, and in the end the digital storytelling part. Because the topic, the theme of what they would get in the end was set up since the beginning. We wanted to work in this way, and because we didn't know who the participants were, they were also very diverse, and there was quite a big group every time, so more than 25 participants to work with. We decided to start with an icebreaker exercise that actually was used as a theme for the rest of the course, meaning that each of the participants had to draw their palm on a piece of paper and write different things. For example, in the middle, in the center of the palm, they would write their favorite motto. Here on this big finger, they would write their favorite book, their favorite movie, and whatsoever. So different things about them. Then they had to cut this hands and stick them on a wall, and then they were invited to tell stories about somebody they didn't know. they had no clue about. So it was very interesting to see already from here how the stories develop. We also had a lot of fun because depending on the level of creativity of people and their inventions, it was very funny, for example, to see the person who had to tell my story, because I was totally involved in there. For example, I read a lot of thriller books and all that stuff. So my favorite books listed there were very interesting and funny to be interpreted by somebody else, and to tell the story of why I'm reading these books and why I like them. So it was very reflective and very challenging for them, and they shared a lot of things along them. So afterwards, going to the second stage of the course, which was more technical, and they worked on different softwares. They were trying to see how different pieces and bits from their stories would fit in the different softwares and how they could combine them and work with them. And during the last session, they were divided into different groups. It was an idea that the facilitators had. So we had one group was called Lady Cafe, which had this meant a couple of ladies, teachers. They gathered and they were building up the story of their favorite models. The second one was called Star Without a Name. They worked on the favorite song, then on the favorite country, the favorite movie, and the favorite book. Here is we put all the stories on this. It's called Padlet. It's like a wall, so all their stories are here. I don't have time to show it, right? I talked too much, I guess.
I have very short talk, so
Yes, me too. Yeah, well, these are just a couple of pictures telling the story of somebody else, which I didn't know. I had no clue. So what we also gave them a homework at the end of the sessions. They had obviously to try to create something that should be their personal story, their digital story. I hope it works. This is how the tea stories with stories on the road. This is how we call it. This is the Padlet, and here are different contributions from people. I would just click on one randomly just to it is quite long, but just to get an idea and to see the different types of software, because this was also the idea in the group work, that each of the group would work with a different type of software to go and to see. No, but anyway, you cannot show it all. It would be too long, but this is just an idea. This is presently with this software. So she filmed herself, and then she started to tell the story of herself with using different images and. Sorry. Okay, maybe if I can just mute it because I don't see.
Okay, you can.
I think that's enough. She talks about her favorite book, her favorite movie, her favorite country, different things. that would be all about our experiences with this story, which was very motivating them.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Szukowska from Poland. At 13, 14, and 14 June, we organized a pilot session in our academy of humanities and economic English. We have 20 people. It was students, trainers, coach, and of different educational levels in different age. Participants declared before the course they didn't know the method and they had never used in education. We organized 3 sessions. First part of the pilot was devoted to introduction to general idea of telling story. After this day, based on the content of the learning handbook and digital course. And the next day, third day, they create own stories by own stories by participants. They work with the individual story. They work in small teams. The feedback was very good. All the participants were very enthusiastic about the method of storytelling. During the pilot session, trainers observed the needs of creative work in the group and the positive influence of the storytelling method on creativeness of the whole group of participants in our pilot session. Thank you.
Again, so the case with the pilot session in Greece was that we organized 3 different sessions. Session number 1 was held in our premises at the university with 27 participants. We had 3 4-hour sessions in 3 days within a week, from Friday to Friday. They had to go through a chapter of the handbook and the phase of the digital course and then come into the classroom where we recapped quickly, and then they had some collaborative activities. For example, during the first phase, when they tried to create the story ideas, they were divided into groups. Each one presented the story to the rest of the group and they received feedback. More or less something like the workshop thing that you did with Peter earlier in the morning. And we went around and helped them with questions to reflect upon their stories. In the second session, they saw some ICT tools and how to use them. And in the third session, we did the same collaborative approach with storyboarding in order to really understand how a storyboard should be created. And then they had about a month to return their digital stories to us. The second session was a mixed session with 14 participants, 3 of which were online. They had to go through the learning material at home, and then we had 1 session for 4 hours at our laboratory again. The 3 online participants participated through Skype, so we could collaborate with them. And again, we had a similar approach, only this time we didn't group them in smaller groups, but we had volunteers coming up and presenting their stories and received feedback from the whole group. The third session was held actually within an international conference in Cross Island, in 2 consecutive days, 2 hours each day with 9 participants. The participants in the whole thing were students, primary school teachers, kindergarten teachers, secondary school teachers, academics, so from all levels of education. These are the demographics. What was interesting in the application form is that a huge amount knew what the narrative approach is, but they didn't know what the digital narrative approach is. So the motivation to participate was mainly because they wanted to learn something new and how to apply it in their teaching practices. But I think that make a strong impression to me is this one. I had language teachers and primary school teachers who said that we teach storytelling. 10 of them actually participated in extracurricular activities like radio broadcasts, reading groups, things like that, that had to do with narration and storytelling. But they said that they didn't know how to teach with storytelling. So they taught storytelling, but they didn't know how to use it. At least that's what they stated in their application form. So some minor observations. I saw a huge problem in following the curve that was presented during the morning. They were very careful following the lessons when they came to the first session to have the initial setting, answering the questions who, when, where, how. They knew what they wanted to teach with the story. They had the dramatic question, but then they followed the classic lecturing approach. They just dictated. So that's why I said in the morning session that pay attention to the story structure and try not to show, but to let the story show what you want. During phase B, the most discussed issue was that of intellectual properties regarding digital files from the internet. If we can use images, if we can use sound files and things like that, when they are free, when they are not, and all that issues. And in phase 3, the common mistake is that they had a table, the template of the storyboard, they put some pictures there, and they read out the story next to it. So that was not actually a storyboard because it was missing several elements, and through guidance on the collaborative activity, we managed to deal with that, and they understood how this should be made and proceeded with the stories. So these are mainly the errors that they had while making a storyboard. Regarding the feedback that we received, they found the digital course and of course the handbook that accompanies that well structured, complete. They accepted the project happily and at a high rate. We collected some useful feedback in order to improve the course and the handbook, as did the rest of the partners. The observation is that we think that collaborative activity, sharing stories and collecting feedback actually worked very well. So possibly, in our case, at least for the target group that we aim, the blended learning format in which, or the flipped learning format in which they see the videos and go through the material at home and then come to in-class session for workshop activities works better. And the teachers express the need for specific practical examples, and they want guided activities. And just to give you an overview of examples that they created, it's just 1 minute. And you can see some techniques with drawings that were scanned and used a lot. So there it says once upon a time, and it goes on. sounds like
E elogiar esses peixes que início tão pujão, pioneiros abandonará. É uma proíbe.
Years ago, an imaginary Kate was walking to school and she slipped into a swimming pool. She was shocked as she couldn't even mask. She was in such a pain that she started crying. No one was there to help her, and felt so helpless and desperate.
And this one is an example of actually drawings from the children in the classroom that the teacher collected and made a digital story with.
Thank you. Okay, so from me you will get no pictures, only words. I'm sorry, because I couldn't add more pictures and movies like that anymore. For Holland, it was a bit of a different story because it was really difficult to recruit people from educational system because they say, well, it's not our priority and we have no time for innovation, things like that. So it was very difficult in the beginning to recruit people from that. Anyway, we succeeded. And we held our 2 sessions, one in early June and one in late September, at the institute, which is called Productive Learning. And we also succeeded in getting a good group together. The first group was not a big group, and we had quite a short workshop where a short presentation, where we showed them the introduction to the course and what it's going to be. And we had a short discussion about the presentation and a short feedback about that. And after we sent them home and so have a look at the whole course. And the second time we come back, tell us what you really would like to do from the whole course. What should we concentrate on? And in between these 2 face-to-face sessions, we also started with the online course, which was a bigger success, and we had also a very massive campaign on social media, which really helped. And some people of the online course didn't have time to do the online course because it was their holiday or whatever, and they said, but I will come back in September. So we had some people of this online course who came to our second face-to-face session. And the thing was, in our second session, to my surprise, they wanted to concentrate on storytelling, story crafting, because they thought it was the most important thing for them. And so they said, well, the technical things, we know how to make a presentation, we know how to use ICT tools, but we want to learn how to craft a story. So the second session was really a longer workshop, how to tell and how to craft a story. And where we use, for instance, we use story cubes. I don't know if you know story cubes, anyone heard of it? It's cubes with little symbols on them. And we also use this sketching method as well. With a change they already want to have or to succeed in a change with students or pupils or adults that they want to achieve. And so we set them together in groups. Let's say the secondary teachers for the secondary schools in a group, adult trainers in a group, primary school teachers in a group, and then find a certain problem they want to solve or a certain theme that they want to get over to the students, and then work either with story cubes or sketches and create a storyboard with that and to tell the story. And then they shared the stories with each other. And well, that was almost a whole day that we were busy with them. And then we just walked through the ICT tools that are possible and the storyboards, and then we sent them home to make a digital story for themselves. They promised that they will upload them to the website when it's possible. So we're in contact and we're waiting for the stories, the digital stories. So that's all I can tell you for now. I can't show you the stories, but it was a very fruitful day, I think, and they were really enthusiastic. Some of these teachers from secondary school section, so to say, they were teachers who worked with difficult children, like school dropouts, who had to come back into the process. And they were really interested in this storytelling approach and working with the digital stories. So that's my story.
Yo voy a ser súper breve, lo voy a hacer en español, pero my partners of the project, they already know how was our pilot team, okay. Así que continúo en español. Voy a ser muy breve para que tengamos un poquito de tiempo, si hace falta, de hablar del storyboard y para pasar al storyteller José Luis Valar, que está por ahí ya esperando, ¿vale? Si tenéis alguna pregunta que hacer sobre el curso. Entonces, lo primero que yo os voy a decir, y lo voy a escribir aquí antes de... Nosotros somos el socio español del proyecto y estamos aquí en Zaragoza, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, el proyecto se termina ahora en el 30 de octubre. Ya habéis oído, se ha testeado el curso y el manual de aprendizaje en todos los países. Se han hecho correcciones en función de los comentarios que las personas que han testeado el curso nos han hecho llegar a cada uno de los socios. Y con todo ese material, el amigo Chris de Polonia está como loco ahí mejorando los materiales para tener ya el producto terminado, el curso digital y el manual terminado a 30 de octubre. Yo con esto, ¿qué os quiero decir? Pues que aquí en Zaragoza, si alguien está interesado en realizar el curso, nosotros a partir de noviembre, diciembre, lo vamos a tener ya, pues bueno, más o menos ya estará terminado el proyecto, ya estará disponible. Entonces, yo os invito a que nos escribáis. Esta es nuestra página web, fase.net, ¿vale? Por si alguien está interesado en ponerse en contacto con nosotros, si va a la página web, tiene el correo allí dentro, que nos escriba diciendo que está interesado y necesita información sobre el curso y os facilitaremos la información necesaria. Yo, súper breve, nosotros hemos tenido 51 personas de diferentes niveles de docencia y también estudiantes de magisterio que han participado en el testeo del curso. Empezamos en junio y lo hemos terminado en septiembre con el parón, lógicamente, de verano. Agosto prácticamente nadie estuvo haciendo cosas de los profesores que estaban involucrados. Hemos tenido mucho profesor en activo en infantil, en primaria y en secundaria, algún profesor universitario y también, como os he dicho, estudiantes de magisterio que han tenido la oportunidad de testear el curso. ¿Cómo lo organizamos nosotros? Bueno, tuvimos 3 días de un pequeño taller donde presentamos el curso y hicimos un microrelato, presentamos una de las herramientas, más que nada como presentación del curso que todos los participantes hicieron online. En fase tenemos nuestra propia plataforma de e-learning, entonces los vídeos del Digital Course y el manual de aprendizaje están ya en nuestra plataforma y desde nuestra plataforma de e-learning los participantes pudieron hacer el curso online. Estuvo online hasta finales de agosto, primera semana de septiembre fue cuando los profes se volvieron a poner las pilas y nos entregaron los vídeos, las historias digitales, que no me va a dar tiempo a poner, pero tenemos en español, hay ejemplos de compañeros que han estado haciendo su pequeña historia. Nosotros, como el resto de los compañeros, animamos a la historia que crearon, que fuese algo que luego les pudiera servir en el colegio, ¿vale? Como profesores de la materia docente que ellos estaban impartiendo. Las materias, pues era de primaria, también había infantil, había incluso un profesor de gimnasia, es decir, que aquí el storytelling digital vale para todo, y de educación especial, de secundaria, también profesores de idiomas. El contar historias para aprender idiomas es algo que va muy bien. Y bueno, aquí son algunos pantallazos de algunos ejemplos de las historias digitales que presentaron los compañeros que participaron en el curso. Y estas son algunas de las fotos de las sesiones presenciales que tuvimos. Como en el resto de los países, la valoración de los participantes ha sido buena. Siempre hay cosas que se pueden mejorar y de hecho lo estamos mejorando para el producto final de mes. Y bueno, invitaros, ya os he dicho que si alguien quiere tener más información o saber un poco más sobre el curso, que nos escriban correo y os pasaremos la información necesaria. ¿De acuerdo? Muchas gracias. Voy a hacer una pequeña introducción. ¿Alguien quiere hacer alguna pregunta específica sobre el curso, sobre cómo se ha creado el storyboard, cómo ha sido el proceso de creación de los materiales didácticos, de los vídeos digitales? Okay. Tarrena, do you want to tell something about the storyboard creation, or we can move?
Course creation. Yeah, there we go. I don't need the microphone, I think.
Yes,
yeah, I do. Sorry. Very short, the course and the online course especially was created like a story itself. It has the same structure like a story has, like I showed you this morning. We have the setting, which is the situation as it is now in Europe among teachers. And our target audience was the teachers. So it was 2 years ago, that was when we started. Whom did we address? All the teachers in Europe, or educators in Europe. And where did we address them? We addressed them by social media, email, and other media. How we could find them. Then we got the response of the teachers, which and what happened then was that we got the response we got the research that Irea told us this morning, that there was a quite big need sorry, for digital storytelling. So this became our theme. And so we designed the course in the structure of the story. So we started with what do we need, and how to develop the course, which was the storytelling in the first place. We had to tell people how stories work, what stories are, all the things that we told you this morning. And then finally, how can we implement stories through ICT. And do you want to say something for him?
So maybe about the storyboard. Okay, I come close to you and
okay.
I can talk through you.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we did it together.
Yes. Well, actually, the initial idea was provided by Paula from Institute. And then we thought that we should try to make something that is more familiar for the teachers, and they could connect with it. So we thought the idea of two teachers, a male and female, meeting for a coffee, and there they are introduced, they meet the person that tries to introduce them to the world of digital storytelling, and he takes them back to the story lab, the T-Story lab, and our story, the lessons actually begin there. So the teachers that are taking the course, the trainers that are taking the course, are actually with our heroes, Joe and Alice, that go through the lessons. They ask questions, they receive answers, and so we try to make the course interactive in a way that the participants actually feel as they are part of the story that is taking place in front of them.
And as it happens in stories, they have a problem which they have to solve, namely the education problem, where they can't get over their information needs to their students. So they need a helper, a mentor, or different mentors, and we introduce different mentors in this course. For the storytelling, we have a mentor which we call the Bard, the storyteller. For the ICT part, we had the nerd, who's working with computers and things like that. And for the digital story, was Walt, the director.
Actually, there was a sort of symbolism because we have Walt, after Walt Disney, the director, we have Dan, after Dan Huxley, who was one of the pioneers in digital storytelling, and Joe, after Joe Lambert, who is a colleague of Dan Huxley. Dan Huxley has died years ago. They pioneered in digital storytelling at the University of Berkeley. And Alice, after Alice, whom surname I keep forgetting, who was the first woman director ever, early in the 1930s. So we try to have symbolism in our course.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
That's it. And in the end, all comes together. So we first have storytelling, then we have ICT, and the third phase is where it all comes together and it makes sense in the end, which is the objective of a story, right? So this is how we build it up.
Like a Quentin Tarantino movie. It sums up in the end.
Right. Okay. So this is what we can say about the creation of the course. Thank you.
Como no hay más preguntas, pues ya puedo presentar a José Luis Galar. Yo solo le pido que se levante porque creo que se va a presentar él solo y todo esto.
Bien, muy buenas tardes a todos. La verdad es que quiero empezar dando las gracias a todas aquellas personas pues, que han pensado en mí para estar aquí esta tarde. Para mí es una sorpresa muy grata. Y también decir que, bueno, me impresiona estar en la Facultad de Educación, puesto que es, en fin, el semillero de lo que serán las generaciones futuras. He hablado en muchos sitios, como se presupondrá, he escrito mucho, como se presupondrá o se sabe, pero determinados ámbitos, determinados foros siempre impresionan bastante, ¿verdad? Y este es uno precisamente en el que quieres salir y quieres agradar, ¿sí? Y a veces solamente por eso ya tienes una presión extra. Bueno, empezando un poco con mi historia, con mi storytelling, decir que también me ha satisfecho mucho que se haya llevado un proyecto de storytelling a un nivel científico tan alto. Realmente yo no voy a hablarles tanto de ese nivel científico, sino de lo que yo hago como storyteller, que no sé muy bien cómo he llegado a ser un storyteller. Realmente, en un momento determinado, yo me di cuenta que empecé a contar historias, a la gente le gustaba, fui 11 años profesor en la universidad, en la escuela de turismo, y aun cuando me paran alumnos y alumnas por la calle, lo que más recuerdan son aquellas historias que les contaba, con lo cual me satisface mucho porque refuerza un poco que entrando en este terreno, pues he encontrado mi elemento, el elemento al que hace referencia Sir Ken Robinson, del que habrán oído hablar, supongo, o del que habréis oído hablar abundantemente. Y bueno, y si llego a ser storyteller es porque en un momento determinado escribo, tengo fortuna, me publican, tengo 7 libros publicados, 2 en Planeta, un ensayo y 3 en el cajón que verán pronto la luz. Entonces, cada frase, cada página, cada intento de que uno de mis lectores compre el libro y luego lea la siguiente frase, pase de página y lo concluya, les puedo asegurar que es toda una aventura de storyteller, es todo un pensamiento constante, permanente, unas veces pensando en el lector, otras veces pensando en uno mismo, pero siempre trabajando en esa línea. Bien. No he querido solamente hablar de libros, literatura, el arte, el storytelling, porque si no supondría hablar demasiado de mí. Y creo que tampoco se trata de eso. Por eso he mezclado un poco lo que sería el arte del storytelling y su aplicación práctica para lo que me suelen llamar en algunas ocasiones el storytelling, el arte del storytelling aplicado un poco a la vida. Unas cosas probablemente pues, sean más escuchables, otras menos, pero bueno, son las cosas, ¿no? Y desde luego esta es mi forma de ver el storytelling, mi forma personal. Una de las cosas que pongo aquí es que el 80% del éxito reside solo en presentarse. Y esto lo decía Woody Allen. Y aquí extraeremos algunas cuestiones. Paso así, ¿verdad? Bien, con las flechas. Ah, sí, de acuerdo. Con esta, ¿no? Vale. Bueno, pues uno se pregunta en muchas ocasiones que ¿por qué Darth Vader llegó a ser Darth Vader? Y al final uno dice, pues porque contó mejor su historia, ni más ni menos. Seguramente era uno de los otros, pero consiguió dar con el kit de la cuestión. Así llegó a convertirse en Darth Vader. Bueno, esto viene por una cuestión. Mucha gente, al saber qué escribo y qué publico, vienen y me dicen, si yo supiera escribir, cómo me gustaría escribir, pero yo no sé contar ninguna historia, yo no tengo ninguna historia. Y esto me produce mucha pena, porque eso no es cierto. Oscar Wilde decía, solo hay dos cosas para escribir o para contar una historia, tener algo que contar y contarla. Y estar totalmente convencidos de que todo el mundo tiene una historia, pero sucede una cosa, y aquí en esta facultad seguro que se tiene en cuenta, y es que todos nacemos como árboles hermosos, todos tenemos nuestras ramas, todos tenemos nuestra estética, pero por lo que sea, y no voy a señalar a nadie, no me refiero dentro de la sala evidentemente, sino en el exterior, por lo que sea, sucede esto. Nos produce una poda o se nos produce una poda neuronal. Se nos convierte en postes, todos absolutamente iguales, con el único propósito de servir para llevar el mensaje que alguien, no señalemos a nadie, quiere que llevemos, ¿de acuerdo? Pero además con una cuestión muy importante, y es que nos quieren todos iguales, ¿de acuerdo? Porque cuando se pudre el poste, lo sustituyen por otro y punto pelota. Aquí no ha pasado nada. Como ya no tienes ninguna identidad, ninguna diferencia, ese factor diferencial, no sé si me vais, en fin, si voy demasiado deprisa, quiero decir, un poco acelerado, es que tengo muchas cosas que decir, por eso voy a decir, al final lo que sucede es esto, ¿de acuerdo? Y esto me da mucha pena. Entonces, una de las cosas por las que decidí salir a la calle y hacer un poco de storytelling es para decirle a la gente que la gente puede contar su historia. Me da pena ver como gente joven que está en círculos sentados y solo hay uno o dos que cuentan su historia, solo hay dos líderes y el resto nunca habla, nunca dice nada. Y si no lo dice voluntariamente ya me parece bien. Pero cuando no lo dice porque cree que no tiene nada que decir, esto me parece mal. No sé si me explico. Entonces, me gusta con esto, un poco saliendo de esa parte literaria y lanzándonos al terreno, lanzándonos al campo, lo que me gusta es transmitir esta idea a la gente, decir, todo el mundo tiene una historia que contar. Y en la medida que cuentes tu historia, en la medida que diseñes tu historia, en la medida que salgas a la calle con tu historia, una historia honesta, no una mentira, no una trola, porque al final eso se pilla, pero con tu historia honesta, con tus mimbres, hayas hecho tu buena cesta, con tu historia serás mucho más feliz, ¿de acuerdo? Porque tendrás cosas que decir, ya no solamente serás quien escuchas, si quieres solo escuchar ya me parece bien, también, pero si quieres decir algo, lo podrás decir, porque tienes tu historia, Eso de que no tengo nada que decir me da mucha pena, de verdad, Tengo hijas en edad adolescente y a veces me lo dicen. Es que no tengo nada que decir, pero hombre, a tu edad no tienes nada que decir. Storytelling. Vosotros ya no, pero esta es la cara que se le queda a la gente normal cuando se le habla del storytelling. Entonces, efectivamente, ya no en este ámbito, ¿verdad? Pero la gente se sorprende un poco cuando digo, pues mira, hoy me han invitado, he tenido la fortuna de que me han invitado a dar una charla sobre storytelling. Y ¿esto qué? El otro día me ponían en un tip que ya el storytelling está dando paso al story doing, es decir, al hacer, es decir, a contar la historia haciendo, no solamente contando. Yo creo que una es consecuencia de la otra. Y me sabe mal que cuando hablan profesiones no científicas, ¿de acuerdo?, disfrutan aniquilando el modelo anterior. Y no creo que Einstein disfrutara aniquilando a Newton. Lo superó, pero sabía lo que valía Newton para poder haber llegado él a donde llegó, ¿de acuerdo? Y eso que yo creo que el story doing, que es hacer, evidentemente, como dice Juan 1.14, en el principio fue el verbo, es decir, el storytelling. Bien, dicho esto, y decir que El storytelling no es más que tecnología de última emoción, ¿de acuerdo? Tecnología de última emoción. Entonces, ¿esto es nuevo? No, esto es antiquísimo. El storytelling realmente no es más que contar un cuento, y el storyteller es el que cuenta el cuento. Y esto ha existido siempre, ¿de acuerdo? Imagino que esto ya lo habéis visto abundantemente, no profundizaremos demasiado, pero realmente llevamos, gracias a esas historias orales, gracias a esas pinturas inscritas en nuestra genética, la idea de la historia. Se nos queda mucho mejor una historia que cualquier número de datos, ¿de acuerdo? Fueron las pinturas de Altamira, fueron los egipcios, las columnas. Cuando muchas veces entran jóvenes a las iglesias o a las catedrales y ven toda esa colección de pinturas, toda esa colección de capiteles, toda esa colección de cosas, se preguntan que a qué tanto trabajo, que para qué hacían eso. Realmente hay que explicarles mucho. La columna trajana, semejante burro, ¿os imagináis ahí la gente picando sin parar alrededor de la columna? O sea, para dejar una historia, ¿sí o no? Para dejarla de forma permanente, para contar, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, bueno, eso está inscrito en nuestra genética hasta que al final llegamos, bueno, pues lo último que es la tablet, o el iPad o el iPod, y habrá más cosas, las gafas Google, etcétera, etcétera. Bien. Y cambiarán los soportes, pero nunca cambiarán las ganas de escuchar una historia. Si veis eso, vuestra razón, y diciendo, a este tío listo que está ahí hablando, yo ya le voy a decir que ese no está de perfil, sino que está de frente, que lo veo, que no me engaña, si es que nadie pretende engañar. Pero si sois honestos con vosotros mismos, veréis que la tendencia a verlo de perfil es enorme. ¿Sí o no? ¿Por qué? Porque no podemos comprender que una cara sea de esta forma. Entonces, al menor descuido, riaca, lo veremos de perfil. ¿Sí o no? Porque la gente quiere cerrar el círculo. La gente, nosotros, cuando digo la gente, digo yo, cuando nos metemos en la cama y nos ha sucedido algo durante el día, nos cuesta mucho trabajo dormirnos si no nos hemos dado una explicación coherente. ¿Estáis de acuerdo en eso o no? Alguien se tumbará y se dormirá, y dormirá a pierna suelta, pero se ha discutido con una pareja, se ha discutido con su hijo o hija, si le han tratado mal en el trabajo, si ha tratado a alguien mal en el trabajo, él, o ella, y se arrepiente. Al final, si no se da una explicación coherente que consiga cerrar el círculo y decir, es por esto, no dormirá. ¿Estamos o no? Aunque sea exagerado, no dormirá. Todo dependerá de los grados, naturalmente, pero necesitará una explicación coherente, porque no podemos vivir, ¿de acuerdo?, sin cerrar ese círculo, con una disonancia cognitiva, ¿de acuerdo? Pero tanto es así que muchas veces acabamos cerrando las realidades a nuestro propio deseo, ¿sí o no? Y las cosas no son lo que pasaron. Luego estamos haciendo historia dentro de nosotros mismos, porque tienes que vivir con ello y para ello necesitas crearte tu historia, porque si no cierras el círculo, ¿de acuerdo?, no estás tranquilo. Ya vemos que el storytelling es importante, pues incluso el storytelling interno o el auto-storytelling. Uno de los autores que a mí más me gustan de divulgación, me lo meto al bolsillo. Nadie me detendrá. Uno de los autores que más me gustan es de divulgación de cosas científicas, es Nicolás Nassim Taleb, Nassim Nicolás Taleb. Este es un libanés, no sé si lo conocéis. Es un niño de la guerra que le cayeron todas las bombas encima. Afortunadamente no encima de él, sino él estaba en un refugio. Como no podía salir, se leyó todo lo que había sobre matemáticas en aquel refugio. Y es probablemente el mejor matemático, si no del mundo, casi. Pero en lugar de dedicarse a la matemática, desarrolló modelos económicos y de la teoría del azar. Fue a Nueva York y contó en Nueva York su historia para que no nos pillara ningún cisne negro. Y ahora veremos lo que es un cisne negro. Nadie le hizo caso, probablemente por interés. ¿Qué hizo Nassim Nicolás Taleb? Demostró de la siguiente forma su razón. Jugó a la bolsa y se hizo rico, con probabilidades del azar, y arruinó a todos aquellos que no lo habían creído precisamente con sus propias teorías. Nos parecerá bien o mal, es un hecho, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, ¿qué dice Nassim Nicolás Taleb? ¿A qué llama cisne negro Nassim Nicolás Taleb? Cisne negro dice que se producen tres circunstancias para que sea un cisne negro. Uno, que sea altamente improbable. Que te toque la lotería primitiva no sería altamente improbable. O sea, fijaos entonces si está buscando una improbabilidad alta. Si eso ni siquiera lo considera lo suficientemente improbable. ¿De acuerdo? Que cause un gran impacto, pero que cause un impacto devastador e importante para tu vida. ¿De acuerdo? Y aquí es lo que me interesa, el tercer punto al que hace referencia Nassim Nicolás Taleb. El tercer punto es que dice que una vez que ha sucedido esa tan improbable y que la gente no tenía ni idea de que iba a suceder y no lo previeron, ¿vale? Dos, que ha causado un impacto devastador brutal. El tercer punto es el que a mí me interesa. La gente somos tan que le buscamos una explicación a posteriori. Es decir, acabamos siendo forenses de lo que sucedió, ¿sí o no? Que alguien piense en los economistas, no sé si hay alguno en la sala donde levantará una flecha o no, pero realmente eso es lo que llama. Es decir, el storytelling, la gente busca la historia. No sé si veis lo que quiero decir. Me quería poner este ejemplo, entre otras cosas, porque también os recomiendo, si queréis, su lectura. Y una de las cosas que dice Nassim Nicolás Taleb, esto es una de las cosas que me parece muy interesante, es que él se sorprende como matemático, pero lo acepta y lo da por hecho, es que, siendo mucho más fácil, y cualquier ingeniero informático dará la razón, siendo mucho más fácil acordarse de 4 o 5 cifras, la gente recordará mucho mejor una historia, ¿sí o no? Por eso dice Nassim Nicolás Taleb, si quieres tener éxito, invéntate una historia. Y si lo pongo como ejemplo, es porque no es ningún cantamañanas. ¿Veis lo que quiero decir o no? O sea, es un matemático, un científico, y creo que este es el foro para decir, ladies and gentlemen, nosotros estamos en el buen camino haciendo un estudio, realizando unos proyectos sobre el storytelling. Es que lo digo porque muchas veces, después de poner la cara del mono, que hemos visto, mucha gente dice taxativamente chorradas. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces, vamos a ver, si gente de esta categoría es capaz de darle esa importancia al storytelling, es que sin ningún género de dudas, la historia es importante. Bueno, esto es un sencillo ejemplo. ¿Qué recordamos? El rey y la reina se murió, que es un dato, o el rey se murió y después la reina se murió con el corazón destrozado por la pena. Probablemente lo segundo nos impacta mucho más, toca la emoción, ¿sí o no? Yo estoy seguro que hoy muchos recordaréis la historia que os he contado sobre Nassim Nicolás Taleb, que era un niño del Líbano, etcétera, etcétera. Pero si os diera mi IBAN y mis 20 dígitos de cuenta, todos seguidos, y os dijera, entrad esta noche, sacad todo lo que podáis, sacaríais un poco, pero si yo os dijera eso, ya me podría acostar bien tranquilo porque mañana no tendría ninguna extracción, porque no os acordaríais ninguno. Si os dijera, S9312285030, nada, ahora sí, podré contaros la historia más rocambolesca. Cuanto más rocambolesca sea, más os acordaréis mañana, ¿sí o no? Y fíjate si es mucho más fácil, según la ingeniería informática, almacenar datos, ¿sí o no? 4 datos, que son ceros y unos, que almacenar palabras, historias, etc. Más adelante, en esta tarde, loca del cine, ¿no? Veremos un poco qué es la hipnosis, pero ya adelanto, después de haber dicho lo de Nassim Nicolás Taleb, que las palabras son psicotrópicas. Una palabra es tan potente como cualquier droga al entrar por el oído. Hay palabras que han destruido personas de un plumazo, ¿sí o no? Una de las cosas más horribles es cuando oyes decir a tu padre o a tu madre, no llegarás a nada después de una discusión. Esto, si podéis, evitadlo, de verdad, porque eso es absolutamente destructivo. Sin embargo, hay palabras que consiguen sacar a una persona de una profunda depresión. porque has conseguido hacerle el clic. Estamos, es decir, si la supiéramos lo haríamos todos. Si yo supiera las palabras que sacan a la gente la depresión, pondría una cola ahí en fila y se las iría diciendo, pero no las sé. Eso hay que trabajarlo. Pero lo que sí es verdad es que las palabras son psicotrópicas, y veremos luego qué quiero decir con esto. Bien, me gustaría que leyerais primero aquella parte y luego, no me hagáis trampa, leed primero aquella parte y luego leed esta. ¿Todo el mundo lee? Bueno, perdón, permitidme que lo cuente yo, y así evitamos, el leer, porque además puede haber distancias. En aquel lado se dice que Juan conduce a 65 kilómetros por hora en una zona de 50. El tío se estampa, y entonces produce daños, tal, hay unos juicios, no sé qué, y entonces declara que tenía que volver rapidísimamente a su casa porque había dejado un regalo para encima de la mesa para su madre y que si lo veía se iba a llevar, claro, una decepción. Él no quería darle una gran sorpresa. Muy bien, Juan es un buen chico. Pero luego está el otro, que Juan conduce, el otro Juan, conduce a 65 kilómetros por hora en un área de 50 y se estampa. Y entonces le provocan los mismos daños, etcétera, etcétera. Y entonces lo que pasa es que encima de la mesa no había dejado para su madre un regalo, sino un paquete de cocaína así de gordo. ¿De acuerdo? Y entonces esto, llevado ante un tribunal, y es cierto, le cayó más condena al que se dejó la coca que al que se dejó el regalo para la madre. Y claro, racionalmente me diréis, eso no puede ser, eso es injusto. Total, ves la tele y veréis la cantidad de injusticias que hay. Ves las cosas y veréis cómo la construcción de una buena historia, pero además con espectáculo, en el que entraremos a continuación, con espectáculo es, bueno, mano de santo. Nos parece mal, naturalmente, pero oye, las cosas, estamos hablando de lo que sucede, no de lo que nos parece bien o mal. Llegado aquí, os diré, ¿qué es poesía? ¿Qué es poesía? Dices mientras clavas en mi pupila tu pupila azul. ¿Qué es poesía? Y tú me lo preguntas. Poesía eres tú. A estas alturas creéis que soy un cursi, que estoy loco. Alguien creerá que soy un poeta, no es mío, es de Becker. Alguien hasta me pedirá el número de teléfono, no, esto es broma. La cuestión que diréis, pero ¿y esta africada? Esto es storytelling, pero la hemos pasado por el laboratorio. Y entonces, tras pasarla por el laboratorio de I más C más H, que para mí es ingenio más creatividad más sentido del humor, nunca olvidéis esto. Si alguna cosa os queréis acordar de tratar una sugerencia, acordaos de lo que os dé la real gana, o de nada. Pero si me dijerais, dame un consejo, yo os diré una cosa que a mí me ha venido bien en estos tiempos, no perder el sentido del humor, de verdad. Soltad lastre, reíros, ¿de acuerdo? O sea, no pasa nada, no pasa nada, hay que aflojarse, no estar tan tenso, de verdad, no pasa nada. Después de pasar por el laboratorio, ingenio, más creatividad, más sentido del humor, soy capaz de decir lo siguiente. ¿Qué es storytelling? Me dices mientras clavas en mi pupila tu pupila azul. ¿Qué es storytelling? Y tú me lo preguntas, storytelling eres tú. Entonces ya es cuando dices, a este tío está absolutamente encerrado, este es un pájaro de cuenta. Ha venido aquí a contarnos una salsa de chorrada y se va a ir tan ancho. Bueno, la verdad es que no lo creo. ¿Por qué? Porque en el fondo storytelling sí que eres tú y storytelling soy yo. Cada uno somos nosotros mismos. Nosotros somos yo, S.A. ¿De acuerdo? Yo no sé si estáis de acuerdo en esto o no. Pero cada uno es su propia marca comercial. Este título lo he sacado de un libro que os recomiendo también, que es Yo S.A., que es de Barry Person y Neil Thomas. A ver, ¿por qué? Pues porque yo creo, o sea, que para hacer un buen storytelling y que tengas éxito, yo no hablo de storytelling literario, de lo que os dé la real gana. con vuestros alumnos, con vuestros amigos, con lo que sea, y siempre diciendo que hay que ser honesto y no contar mentiras, esto para mí es muy importante. La trola hay que desecharla, la mentirijilla piadosa no sabemos, pero la trola o gorda, esa hay que desecharla. Yo creo que influyen tres cosas muy importantes. Uno, tu expertise. ¿Tu expertise qué significa? Que o sabes hacer algo o nadie te llamará para nada. ¿Veis lo que quiero decir o no? Es decir, que a partir de este momento hay que currarse las cosas, a partir de este momento, pero no porque seáis unos estudiantes, otros mayores. Yo también a partir de este momento de currarme más cosas todavía, para ir creciendo en mi expertise. ¿Cuál es mi expertise? La que sea, la de cada uno, lo que cada uno sabe hacer. Pero lo que sabes hacer, tu elemento, ¿vale? Lo que haces bien, venga, a currárselo. Si cuentas una buena historia y te llaman y al final te dicen, venga, pues ando, do it, y no sabes hacerlo, te dirán, au revoir, o goodbye, porque tu expertise, en fin, has contado una historia magnífica, pero no nos has resuelto nada, tío, nos has mantenido un poco engañados ahí con la trola, pero a la postre, cero patatero, Entonces, la expertise, muy importante, Y dos, la puesta en escena. La puesta en escena para mí es fundamental. Todos los magos tienen su puesta en escena. Todos los jugadores de fútbol tienen su puesta en escena, con sus diademas, sus no diademas. Ese look descuidado que te cuesta tantas horas en el espejo. Es decir, pero este chico, qué descuidado va, que ha pasado 3 horas colocándose los pelos de una forma descuidada. Es decir, todo esto es importante y hay que ser consciente. Y cuando digo tu puesta en escena, tu teatro, tu show, hablo de dos cosas. Una cosa es tu hardware, es decir, tu cuerpo, pero aquí no estamos hablando ni de medidas, ni de que tengas que vestir de forma clásica ni moderna, no, cada uno que se encuentre, esa es la idea, ¿de acuerdo? Y que lo trabaje, ¿de acuerdo? En eso estamos, Tu expertise, tu aspecto, ¿de acuerdo? Para el show, es decir, con tus colas, tu sombrero para sacar los conejos, etcétera, etcétera, ¿de acuerdo? Y tu software, que es tu historia, ¿de acuerdo? Tu historia. Es decir, si sabes hacer cosas, presentas tu hardware como crees y como tú consideras oportuno, y además cuentas una gran historia, tu show tendrá éxito, o al menos tendrá muchas posibilidades de tener éxito. Pero esto no solo estamos hablando a la hora de buscar trabajo, tal. No, estamos hablando incluso, yo entiendo que para niños, para grandes, tal, para una residencia de ancianos, para lo que sea, ¿de acuerdo? Defines el objetivo, y luego lo atacas, Entonces, tu hardware es lo que se ve de ti. Un hardware descuidado, es decirle a la gente, tú me importas un bledo. Y esta es la pura verdad, Si tú vas a un sitio a tomarte un café a primera hora de la tarde y vas al baño y ya te encuentras los baños hechos un asco, lo que te está diciendo el dueño del establecimiento o el gerente es que le importas un auténtico bledo, ¿sí o no? Porque es que no, ni se ha preocupado de tener en orden una de las cosas más importantes a la hora de tener el café. Es decir, que todos los detalles del hardware hay que tenerlos perfectamente controlados. ¿Estamos? Y no estoy hablando ni de estilos, ni de nada, ni de pesos, ni de medidas en absoluto. Estamos hablando de que cada uno con lo que cuenta, que se defina, que se comprenda y que se saque el mejor de los partidos. ¿Estamos? Eres mucho más que tu imagen en el storytelling, o sea, forma parte de eso, el storytelling, pero una mala imagen, ¿de acuerdo? Influye sobre la percepción, es inevitable, y con eso tienes que contar, ¿de acuerdo? La buena imagen no te garantiza el éxito, pero te ayuda bastante, Lo que sí te garantiza es que una mala imagen puede deteriorar, Y vuelvo a insistir que no hablo de corbatas, Que se me entienda bien esto, por favor, ¿Estamos? Aquí tenemos gadgets de la gente, es decir, cada una de las personas que trabaja con famosos o está en la farándula casi siempre tiene sus rasgos reconocibles, ¿sí o no? Tiene sus gadgets, Son la inmensa mayoría abogados y jueces, ¿de acuerdo? ¿Por qué? Porque ante el tribunal representan su show, ¿sí o no? Su show, uno lleva un bigote, el otro una gafa, un sombrero, el otro, joder, si a Mario Conde lo despeinamos y le quitamos las gafitas que lleva colgadas, ya no lo reconoceríamos. Cuando salió de la cárcel Mario Conde, salió mucho más místico y cuando lo veías hablar decías, este no me lo creo. Ahora que ha vuelto, ¿sabes? Te gustará o no te gustará, pero es creíble su discurso para él y a quien le guste. ¿Sabes lo que quiero decir o no? El otro discurso no cuadraba. No sé si me explico lo que quiero decir. Ahora que vuelve a llevar la gomina, ¿por qué? Porque es su gadget, es lo que le identifica, ¿estamos o no? Y al final, el show es el show, ¿de acuerdo? Y por eso la gente tiene su show. El otro un pelo largo tal, pero todos llevan algo que se diferencia. Estamos Darth Vader frente a los otros, ¿sí o no? Bueno, y llegamos, dijéramos, a esa parte del storytelling, que es la historia, que parece ser que es lo que muchas veces importa más, aunque yo no estoy de acuerdo del todo, insisto, en que para mí el storytelling es un completo. Habréis visto pues, que muchos escritores escriben su libro, pero luego también muchas veces casi te gusta más el personaje, el escritor, que sus propias novelas, ¿sí o no? El escritor o la escritora. Es tan atractivo, esto ha pasado mucho en otras épocas, con los escritores, escritoras románticos, ¿sí o no? Te apasiona que en un momento determinado pues hicieron tal cosa o tal otra. Es decir, que el personaje del escritor o la escritora o del pintor o de la pintora, del músico o la música, superó casi a su obra, ¿sí o no? Es decir, superó el hardware hasta su propio trabajo, ¿sí? Incluso hay toreros que no han toreado nunca, o un par de veces, y se les sigue llamando maestros, ¿sí o no? Yo sé de algunos, pero es que cuando toreó, hay que buscar en los anales de la historia para ver que una vez toreó, pero que sigan yendo de toreros y su personaje se ha impuesto y ahora viven pues de que dicen que fueron toreros. Mirad, cosas que para mí, y esto es muy personal, o sea, para mí, para José Luis Galán, tiene que tener una historia para contar. Tiene que provocar emoción. Y lo que provoca emoción son las cosas fuertes y potentes. Si yo os digo, hoy he comido unas judías con un poquito de ajo. Si os digo, acabo de pasar por la calle y he visto a un tío tirarse por la ventana y ha caído a mis pies. Automáticamente la potencia del segundo mensaje, o sea, vamos, se come a las judías que me he comido con un poquito de ajo, ¿sí o no? Es decir, el segundo os acordáis, mucho de los síntomas, ¿de acuerdo? ¿Por qué? Pues porque es que hay temas que son brutales. Entonces, yo no estoy diciendo que siempre hablemos de esos temas cuando no vengan a cuento, pero que si queréis una historia potente, vida-muerte, siempre duplas, vida-muerte, eros y tanatos, Freud, verdad-mentira, me engañas, no te engaño, que es verdad, créeme, no, que ya lo hiciste, que ya me engañaste en otra ocasión, ya no te perdono, etcétera, lo de siempre, Pimpinela, ¿vale? Amor-odio, te quiero pero no, pero luego sí, pero luego te odio, pero luego te amo, llegada partida, te vas en el tren, vuelves, llego 5 años tarde y se había casado con otro, me engañaste, verdad, mentira, si luego se muere además, pues ya mezclamos varias cosas, pues la bomba, ese éxito asegurado en la historia, lealtad, engaño, o sea, siempre hay cosas potentes, o sea, cosas que realmente te emocionan, ¿sí o no? Si os digo que mañana he quedado a tomar unas copas con un amigo, pues, ahora, si os cuento una cosa, esta noche ven la tele, porque el diablo en persona va a salir a daros una noticia. Son cosas... Entonces, bueno, cosas muy importantes. Huellas que dejaron marca. Sí. Esto sucede generalmente en la niñez y en la adolescencia. ¿Sí o no? La niñez y la adolescencia son fermento seguro para buenas historias. Os digo una cosa. Es muy importante, yo soy un fan de David Lynch, el cineasta. David Lynch es un gran meditador, hace meditación trascendental. Yo medito, no soy un gran maestro de la meditación, pero medito. ¿Y qué quiero decir con esto? Que todas estas cosas suelen salir y aflorar como semilla buena para historia cuando consigues de alguna manera conectar en un estado, no sé si me explico lo que quiero decir, es decir, propio, con vosotros mismos, o sea, de calma, ¿vale? O sea, que a veces hay que sentarse tranquilamente a meditar, entre comillas, bien con una práctica desarrollada de meditación, o bien tú solo, debajo de un árbol mirando al cielo, a ver qué viene, ¿sí o no? Mirando, viendo, revisando, repasando, que vaya saliendo material. Esto es importante. La adolescencia y en juventud hay patrones comunes. Y además siempre se reconoce la gente en ti mismo, ¿sí o no? Porque les ha pasado lo mismo, o les está pasando lo mismo. Se reconoce, ¿de acuerdo? Referencias culturales conocidas. Cuando queréis una historia que enganche, referencias culturales conocidas. Es decir, si cogéis a alguien occidental y le habláis de los bodhisattvas que atravesaban el río en el monte Osoresan, en busca, probablemente nadie sabe de lo que le hablas, ¿de acuerdo? Si quieres utilizar algo, utiliza algo más cercano, ¿de acuerdo? Utiliza la laguna Estigia y Acaronte, ¿sí o no? O simplemente utiliza otra referencia, estamos, pero no por ser exótico te pases de exótico, ¿veis lo que quiero decir? Y al pasarte de exótico estés hablando de unas referencias que nadie te comprende, a la hora de construir una historia. A no ser de que sea eso lo que busques, la incomprensión total. Si es lo que buscas, fenomenal, objetivo conseguido, ya está. Pero si no, buscar referencias culturales tuyas para contar la historia, ¿de acuerdo? Secuencia narrativa. Podéis hacer experimentos, pero al final la secuencia narrativa nos viene impuesta por genética. Inicio, nudo y desenlace, ¿sí o no? En esa secuencia tienes mucho ganado. ¿Te quieres experimentar y contar el final? Y luego el desenlace y después el nudo. Mira, a ver, igual puede ser que sea una innovación y no hay por qué dejar la innovación. Prueba, experimenta, mira, a ver, oye, esto es... ¿Me acerco más aquí?
Alejarte del...
Me alejo. ¿Así bien? Sí, correcto. Detalles y atrezo. Yo no os digo que mintáis. Al revés. He empezado diciendo que hay que ser honesto en las historias. Pero a que cuando una mentira la adornas con mucho detalle es mucho más creíble. Por ejemplo, mi hija adolescente hace poco aplicó gran storytelling. Al llegar tarde en el Pilar, inventó una historia sobre tranvías y ruedas pinchadas del tranvía. O sea, realmente emocionante, una historia perfecta. Es decir, y realmente me gustó mucho. Como historia le dije, hija, 10. O sea, una historia, no te creo, estás castigada. Pero la historia es fantástica, de verdad que sí. Muy bien la aderezada, un inicio, un desenlace. Es mentira, pero tanto detalle, si te pillo por el detalle de las ruedas pinchadas, si no, hubiera creído todo. Bien, es decir, los detalles, el atrecho dan veracidad, ¿de acuerdo? Y el apoteosis final, es decir, siempre que vayáis a algo, buscad un final donde la gente se quede con la boca abierta. ¿Estamos? ¿Cuál? Ah, no sé, buscadlo. No hay apoteosis, venga, apoteosis finales para todo. Te metes en internet y seguro que viene. Apoteosis final para tal, apoteosis final, pero no se lo tiene que currar. Su apoteosis final. Vale. Mirad, Guber es un productor de cine. En estos momentos, Guber es el CEO de Mandalay Entertainment, ¿de acuerdo? Pero ha sido de la Pictures, de Columbia, etcétera, etcétera. Este tío decide cuántos millones de dólares gasta en una película. Pues, claro, pero estamos hablando de que él decide cuántos millones gasta en una película. Es decir, que abre la caja fuerte y saca millones de dólares para la película. Podemos comprobar cómo, si esto dice Guber, que necesita para que una historia se la crea, es que Guber algo de razón tiene para que una historia funcione. porque se gasta millones de dólares, y decide cuánto va a invertir. Él hizo Gorilas en la niebla, El expreso de medianoche, Rayman, El color púrpura. En algunas cosas ha fracasado y en otras ha tenido gran éxito. Entonces, ¿cuál es el test de Uber? Esto lo he recopilado, esto no aparece por ahí como test de Uber. Pero esto lo he recopilado y lo he puesto de esta manera para dar una pincelada de qué tiene que tener una buena historia para que sea creíble. ¿Tenemos un relato auténtico? Esa es la primera pregunta que nos tenemos que hacer. ¿Tenemos un relato auténtico? ¿Lo has vivido? ¿Lo has vivido? ¿Te ha impresionado ese relato? ¿Es ajeno o postizo? Esas cosas se notan. Cuando una cosa tú la conoces bien, la historia que montas es mucho mejor. No sé si estáis de acuerdo o no. ¿Puedo montar historias sin conocer? Sí, claro. Evidentemente, si yo mañana quiero escribir algo de ciencia ficción sobre Marte, no necesariamente tendré que viajar a Marte. No podría. Y sin embargo, podré escribirlo, sí. Pero si lo conozco, probablemente haya detalles, estés impregnado de algo que sea mucho más creíble. Implica a tus destinatarios, esto es muy importante, cuando escribáis un libro, cuando escribáis un PowerPoint, cuando escribáis lo que queráis, cuando montéis vuestra historia, tiene que implicar a la gente a la que os estáis dirigiendo. Si a la gente a la que os estáis dirigiendo le importa un bledo lo que estás diciendo, pues se verá bocas que se abren, gente que se marcha, ¿de acuerdo? Etcétera, etcétera. Gente que se duerme, niños que caen así, etcétera. Porque no les importa nada, no les estás implicando. Y hay gente que esto es muy poco empática, no sé si os habéis dado cuenta, y hay gente que no se da cuenta, sigue soltando la chapa. A lo mejor yo en este momento estoy cayendo en eso, no lo sé. Pero tienes que implicar a la gente, ¿de acuerdo? Se ajusta al momento, esto también es muy importante. Hay historias que sirven para hoy, pero ya no sirven para mañana. ¿Veis lo que quiero decir o no? Se ha pasado, estamos, ya no sirve. ¿Me hubiera gustado contarlas hoy? Sí, pero es que su momento fue ayer. Entonces esto preguntároslo también, ¿de acuerdo? ¿Está vinculado a una idea superior o es una cosa plana? La gente respondemos muy bien a ideas superiores, a ideas, no sé lo que queráis, de tipo medioambiental, de tipo de cooperación, de lo que sea. Todo este tipo de valores superiores, la historia la recoge muy bien y la gente es muy receptiva, ¿vale? Y se ajusta al medio, esto también es importante. Hay cosas que se pueden decir y otras que es mejor hacerlas por escrito, sí o no, y otras es mejor hacerlas en película. ¿Estamos? Es decir, eso, si te contestas y te das respuestas para ti positivas a ese test, es muy probable que consigas una buena historia. Una buena historia que te compren, y no me refiero a que te compre nadie, sino que te escuchen y que convenzas, ¿de acuerdo? O al menos que digan, es una buena historia, ¿de acuerdo? Bien, bueno, me estoy alargando quizá demasiado. La primera impresión que hablábamos antes, ¿de acuerdo? Que nunca tienes oportunidad de causar una segunda impresión, no quiero insistir más en esto, y paso directamente, porque ya te van a dar un justo de tiempo, ¿verdad? Ya me ha pasado. ¿Me quedan? ¿10 minutos? Sí, ya acaba con 10 minutos. Sí. Vamos a ver, por no repetir. Hay un sujeto que probablemente habéis oído hablar de él, que se llama Kevin Dutton, que habla de hipnosis. La hipnosis es esa influencia incisiva, penetrante y de percepción milimétrica. Hay gente que son auténticos y auténticas maestros de las artes marciales de la hipnosis, que les basta 4 palabras para que te vayas al huerto, en el mejor sentido. ¿De acuerdo? O sea, para convencerte de cualquier cosa. Tienen el toque. Y voy a decir una cosa, no sé si grave, pero sí cierta. Suelen tener ciertos rasgos psicopáticos. Es decir, son un tanto psicópatas. Pero atención, que en el terreno en el que nos movemos, no soy psicólogo, no soy psiquiatra, y aunque me hubiera gustado mucho, porque ese es un tema que con los tiempos vas descubriendo qué son las materias que te gustan. Y yo descubrí muy posteriormente a los estudios que me gustaba la psiquiatría, pero ya es tarde, o no demasiado pronto. Hay dos tipos de psicopatía. La psicopatía fría y la psicopatía caliente. La psicopatía fría es la peligrosa. La psicopatía fría, el psicópata frío, es el que solo quiere conseguir su propio beneficio. ¿Estamos o no? Y entonces desarrolla todas sus artes marciales de la hipnosis para convencerte de un tema, y una vez conseguido le importas un auténtico bledo. Hasta luego, Lucas. ¿De acuerdo? Y si te causa daños colaterales, mala suerte. ¿Estamos? Pero luego hay cierto grado de psicopatía cálida o caliente que consiste, que más que psicopatía es esa empatía, ¿de acuerdo? Hablemos mejor de empatía fría del psicópata, y la empatía caliente o cálida, que es en la que dice, sí, me pongo en tu lugar, siento tu dolor, pero siento de verdad, ¿es lo que quiero decir o no? Yo te digo, va muy ligado, es decir, mucha gente para ser hipnótico, para aplicar hipnosis, y ahora veremos lo que es, todo el mundo tranquilo, para aplicar hipnosis tienes que ser empático, ya digo, y en cierta medida un poco psicópata, y en la medida que seas más psicópata, más capacidad de convicción, en muchas ocasiones. En general, luego imagino que habrá expertos que digan, no, eso no es exactamente así, en efecto no será exactamente así, es un rasgo general. Os hago un juego, pequeño juego, ¿vale? Fijaos en una carta, ¿de acuerdo? Rápidamente, muy rápidamente, porque si no el juego no puede ser, ¿vale? Os quito una carta, ¿estamos? Ahora tenéis que ver si vuestra carta, ahora que quita una carta, es la que ha desaparecido, ¿de acuerdo? ¿Estamos? ¿Es vuestra carta la que ha desaparecido? ¿Lo hacemos otra vez? Una carta. ¿Vale? La quitamos. ¿Está vuestra carta? ¿A quién le ha desaparecido la carta? Realmente no hay ninguna carta de las anteriores. Si os dais cuenta, perdón. Si os dais cuenta, claro, aquí estamos todos muy atentos. Esto un mago lo hace mucho más rápidamente y mucho mejor que yo. Pero realmente, ¿en qué consiste el truco? En que ninguna carta es la misma. Han desaparecido todas. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? Que es fácilmente manipulable con técnica el cerebro humano. ¿Sí o no? Y te van conduciendo hacia donde quieres. El storytelling tiene su parte oscura. Alguien se puede escandalizar y decir, oh, pero entonces estamos hablando de... No, yo estoy diciendo, usad el storytelling igual que las artes marciales, para vuestro equilibrio interior, no para romperle a uno la crisma por la calle, que te encuentres a la vuelta de la esquina. Como todo, tiene su lado negro, pero usadlo en blanco, no uséis la fuerza de Darth Vader, sino la del Jedi. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces, bueno, llegamos a esto. Sí. ¿En qué consiste ser hipnótico? ¿O qué componentes tiene que tener una historia hipnótica? ¿De acuerdo? Según Kevin Dutton. Pues tiene que tener 5. Y como habláis todos inglés, diréis, pero ¿por qué son 7 magníficos y no 5? ¿Te has equivocado? Yo diré, no, porque aquí hay 2 magníficos más, el público y yo. Entonces, ¿de acuerdo? O sea, son los 5 elementos de la hipnosis. ¿De acuerdo? ¿Cuáles son? Pues mirad, la historia tiene que ser simple, de interés personal percibido, que tenga un grado de incongruencia importante. Y ahora veréis a qué me refiero. Confianza, ¿de acuerdo?, en quien cuenta la historia, y empatía. Vayamos uno por uno rápidamente. Te aseguro que acabo. Mirad, no voy a insistir mucho. Simplicidad. Esta es la regla de oro. Como a la gente le des un montón, tú pregunta a una persona. Si queréis a alguien, a ver, ¿por qué me quieres? No sé si tenéis que hacer esta prueba, no lo sé. Si preguntáis a alguien, ¿por qué me quieres? y te da 25 o media docena o 7 puntos por lo que te quiere, déjalo o déjala inmediatamente, porque no te quiere nada. Quiero decir, no hay forma de decir por qué quieres a una persona. La quieres y punto, sí o no. Es algo emotivo. ¿Por qué? Porque huele muy bien tu Boloña. Porque no. Es decir, la quieres, es muy complicado. Hombre, pues te quiero porque te quiero. Estamos. Entonces, simple, simple. Buscad una historia simple. Esto es importante. No quiero... Bueno, Talleyrand, uno de la Revolución Francesa, decía una frase un poco bestia, pero que no estaba exenta de razón. Decía, me bastan 5 minutos de escuchar a un hombre para enviarlo a la horca. Es decir, una burrada, ¿de acuerdo? Pero vamos a ver, 5 minutos de reloj. Si yo no estuviera aquí 5 minutos de reloj mirando sin decir nada, se nos haría eterno, ¿sí o no? Hay gente que sí, otros pensarían que me he vuelto loco, otros dirían que le pasa, este tío es un robot y se han acabado las pilas. Es decir, cualquier explicación, ¿de acuerdo? 5 minutos es mucho. Si una persona es inocente, en el sentido X, y tiene una buena historia que contar, 5 minutos sobra para convencer, ¿sí o no? Esto es así, porque es simple. Mira, yo no, porque no estaba a punto, ¿de acuerdo? No hay que darle más vueltas. Yo no, porque no estaba. Estaba... ¿De acuerdo? Ahora, cuando empiezas a hablar... Fatal, la cosa se pierde, Estamos, entonces, una cosa simple. Las melodías más pegadizas, Georgie Dan, la barbacoa, que no nos gusta algo, pero ahí está, todo era la barbacoa. Y además era un gran músico, hacía esto para ganar dinero, pero era un gran músico, Lo que pasa es que la pasta es la pasta, amigo. Interés personal percibido. Esto es muy importante. Tengo que conseguir que la gente crea mi historia porque a ella le interesa creer en mi historia. ¿Sí o no? ¿Es lo que quiero decir o no? Yo no puedo ir a decirle, cómprame esto porque yo tengo que vender algo hoy. No. Cómprame esto porque tú solucionas un problema. ¿Sí o no? ¿Y por qué he puesto esto? A mí, para escribir 2 de mis últimos libros, editados además con Destino, de Planeta, me metí en el corazón más profundo de la Policía Científica de Madrid y en el corazón, no sé si más profundo, pero bastante profundo, del Centro Nacional de Inteligencia. Me recibieron, no es normal, y lo reconozco, pero porque usé en mi petición el interés personal percibido por la otra parte. Y le dije, voy a escribir esto sobre el Departamento de Policía. Voy a escribir esto sobre el Centro Nacional de Inteligencia, que no hay novelas en castellano sobre el tema. Me gustaría documentarme, porque si no tendré que escribir lo que me invente y lo que me dé la gana. Y por lo tanto esto puede salir muy mal parado. Es decir, considero que es interesante que sin que me deis lógicamente datos y datos, o sea, que ponga en peligro la seguridad nacional, pero sí lo suficiente, o sea, como para que yo pueda desarrollar nuestro. Y me recibieron, ¿de acuerdo? Y me contestaron a todo lo que pregunté. Y bien o mal salió mi proyecto adelante. Pero no por yo, si yo les hubiera dicho, ¿vosotros imagináis que me hubieran recibido si yo les hubiera dicho, oye, es que me interesa mucho, es que yo quiero sacar una novela superventas, es que... ¿Y qué me cuentas, no? A ver, te voy a decir, si yo soy espía, ¿de acuerdo? O sea, ahora sí le digo, bueno, voy a hablar de ti, o me dices algo, o vas a salir retratado como el... ¿de acuerdo? Le dice, vale, ya te cuento algo, aunque sea por encima. Bueno, otra cuestión importante, y la incongruencia. ¿Qué queremos decir con incongruencia? Que cuando un final es previsible, nos decepciona, ¿sí o no? Nos decepciona, Entonces, lo que hay que intentar es ese toque de cambiar el ritmo. ¿Estamos o no? A veces te dicen, inflexión de la voz cuando hablas, ¿sí o no? No. Es decir, ¿por qué? O sea, porque solamente con lo que no esperas, a la gente la vas manteniendo, ¿sí o no? Hay que ir buscando un poco eso. Y hay que buscar el efecto de lo que no esperas. A mí, para esto, lo mejor, una de las frases con las que más me he reído, ya acabo, de verdad. Con las que más me he reído es la de Oscar Wilde, que a mí me encanta. Dice, disculpe, no la había reconocido. He cambiado tanto. A mí me parece absolutamente, o sea, lo dice todo. O sea, es absolutamente fatuo. He cambiado tanto que ya ni te reconozco. ¿eh? Pues eso, buscar la incongruencia en el buen sentido, ¿eh? Estamos en la historia. Confianza, ¿eh? Confianza, ¿de acuerdo? No hay nada como la confianza. Si tú no das confianza en la historia, o a la hora de contar una historia, quien escucha la historia no te creerá. Me hubiera gustado mucho asistir hoy, no he podido a las otras charlas porque sé que han sido muy buenas, ¿eh? Y había una que era de una doctora, creo que hablaba sobre medicina, etcétera, etcétera, y que me hubiera encantado, porque seguramente, no sé si iba un poco, habrás nombrado esto o no, pero estoy seguro que la confianza es importante en transmitir tu historia, en transmitir tu cuento, ¿eh? Porque si tú mismo no te crees lo que dices a una persona que está enferma delante, ¿eh? Estás de acuerdo, ¿no? Bueno, y empatía, ¿de acuerdo? Y empatía. Esto es absolutamente importante, ¿eh? Pero la empatía caliente, no la empatía fría, ¿eh? No la empatía del psicópata, ¿eh? Sino la de comprendo tu dolor. Si te pones a la hora de contar una historia en el otro lado, ¿eh? Por eso muchas veces te dicen, es que no eres comercial en algún escrito, no eres comercial, es que no me he puesto en el lado de quien lo compra. Y lo que quiero decir o no, he escrito lo que a mí me apetecía, ¿eh? Que no lo van a comprar, ¿eh? Eso ya me ha pasado con alguna cosa que tengo en el cajón. Es extraordinaria, literalmente, ¿eh? Pero no es comercial, no se compra esto. Pues bueno, he hecho lo que quería, pero no lo he conseguido, ¿eh? No me he puesto en ese punto. Bien. Y simplemente, para acabar, no sé si habría un minuto para ver un pequeño vídeo o no. Si lo buscan. ¿Hay un minuto? ¿No? ¿Alguien? ¿Sí o no? Si no, no, ¿eh? O sea, dura 2 minutos, ¿eh? Esta frase para acá, siguiente. Quizá ya haya dicho lo mismo antes, pero mi explicación será siempre diferente. Yo creo que esta es la base y el resumen del storytelling, ¿eh? Es decir, diré siempre lo mismo. Amor, muerte, odio, vida, pero al final la explicación es lo que cuenta, ¿eh? Bueno, me gustaría mucho...
Disculpe, ha llegado un paquete urgente.
¿Quiere un día?
Usted, hace 20 años.
Gracias.
¿Qué? ¿Sorprendido? Seguro que ya ni te acordabas. Si estás viendo esto, es que han pasado 20 años. Espero que no hayamos perdido pelo o ganado panza. Como te conozco, me conozco y sé que podemos haber olvidado algunas cosas que aprendimos este verano, he decidido hacer este vídeo para recordártelas. Recuerda que hubo un tiempo en el que fuimos viajeros, no turistas, en el que nos guiábamos por la curiosidad de un libro. Y no necesitábamos reserva para pasar una noche. Y tú lo sabes. Si eres feliz, apaga este vídeo. Ah, veo que sigues ahí. El futuro. ¿Nos casamos con ello? Ah, creo que no. ¿Y me quitas tan pendiente? En fin, después de todo ya eres muy conocido. Pero que siempre teníamos tiempo para hacer algo más. Y para aprender. Aprender que hubo un tiempo en el que el mundo entero decía no se puede. Y la ilusión de un país demostró que el mundo estaba equivocado. Y sobre todo recuerda que la vida es una sucesión de momentos y que depende de ti cómo los vivas. Estés donde estés,
estado alguna vez en Perú. Lo que sea que necesites, hoy está en Perú.
Bueno, pues con esto concluimos nuestra exposición. Realmente espero que os haya gustado. Siento haberme pasado del tiempo. Es un vídeo que aplica el storytelling para mí de una forma perfecta, generando un montón de emoción, de un destino turístico que en esto concretamente es Perú. Imagino que se ve claramente que quien le habla desde el futuro es él. Entonces, pues bueno, esta ha sido mi exposición. Muchas gracias.